One of the most consequential lies of history is that Karl Marx put forth an economic theory or doctrine. He did not. He put forth a totalitarian religion. This was a rape of the body of Christ.
He said the ultimate objective was to destroy Christianity. Those were his words.
And Khrushchev bragged about it. We'll take America without firing a shot.
Hi, I'm here to impoverish, enslave, and murder you.
They were actual communists.
The result you can see.
We have to stay woke.
There are ravening wolves in sheep's clothing all over the place.
You know, when you think you've seen everything, when you think you finally have a grip, an understanding of what evil truly awaits this country and what has been looking to subsume this country for the last 100, at least 125 years, you come to a realization where you just don't know enough. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, one and all. Happy Easter. As I have been saying a lot today, Christos Anesti, Christ is risen. Shout out to all of my Greek family out there. This is Apostate Radio. I am coming to you live from the County of Kings, the People's Republic of Brooklyn, and I am joined by, as always, my co-host, my brother, who's supposed to be getting me some pizza later, but I don't know when that's going to happen. Mr. Nostra Chavez.
Trying to do it last week, bro.
You know what?
We'll make it happen.
Yeah, we will. Because this week, with all of the stuff that I had going on, I did like with wedding stuff because I'm getting married in July. Yeah, at the end of July.
It's a lot, man. I did that 2 years ago, so
yeah,
I remember.
And then yesterday, I missed my first home match. Well, I'm sorry, my first away match. It's been a tradition of mine, right? Like over the last few years, where every time DC United come up here to New York, whether it's to play New York Red Bulls or New York City FC, I always go to the game. Okay, because it's rude for me to, for y'all to be here.
Yeah, they're in town.
Yeah, when they're in town, right? So, first game in 4 years that I missed, but I had good reason. We were doing engagement photos yesterday.
Oh, okay.
The first set of engagement videos. Yeah, man.
Great.
This is, of course, Apostate Radio. This is episode 11. Praise God. We're getting up there, y'all. Like, it's amazing.
Yep. Time flies when you're having fun, man.
Exactly.
I'm gonna share this too. I'm gonna share on my.
Please do. Please do.
Now,
for those of you who are coming into who are coming in, thank you so much for joining us. You can, if you can like, comment, subscribe. We are live on X. We are live on Rumble. We are live on YouTube. And if you want to support the show, well, actually, let me not get ahead of myself here. You can follow us at Isaiah L. Carter and Mr. Nostra Chavez right here at Nostra Chavez. Deeply philosophical brother here. Also, if you want to support the show further, you can do so at buymeacoffee.com/apostate radio. We want to thank all of you who have contributed over the last several weeks, really everybody who's contributed at all, because you could have you could have bought a coffee for yourself and said, buy coffee for us.
Appreciate it.
Tonight's guest is a titan, a titaness, if you will. This lady here, let me just get this together. This lady was a missionary in Russia in the late 90s. Then came back to the US and got a dual master's in Russian language and literature and Russian and Eastern European studies from Florida State University. We got a Seminole on the program tonight, y'all. In 2004, my dad used to love Florida State college football, dude. Used to love them.
One of my roommates was a Seminole. Good friend of mine. One of my best friends.
Wow.
Yeah.
In 2004, she completed and defended her master's thesis on underground Christian movements in the Soviet Union.
That's really interesting.
In 2008, she began seeing the same Soviet anti-religious tactics she researched for her thesis occurring in America. In 2022, she published her book, Beneath Sheep's Clothing, The Communist Takeover of Culture in the USSR and Parallels in Today's America. She is the writer and producer of the documentary, Beneath Sheep's Clothing. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to present to you Miss Julie Behling. How are you, my dear? Welcome. Please, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Doing great.
That's awesome. That is awesome. This is so. I watched a good bit of the documentary this afternoon and getting ready for it, and it's left me a little shook, to be quite honest with you. I mean, there's a lot of, again, like I said in the intro. When you think you know something, you find out that you actually don't. And the little bit you knew turns out to be just the beginning. And that's really how I approached this watching the documentary. My first question to you, Julie, is like, how did this come together? You made this back in 2022. How did this come together, and like, what did you start to see? Like what were some of the things that you noticed in the lead up to getting this done?
Well, the film came out in 2024.
It came out in 2024. I'm sorry, that was the book.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, the film came out last summer. I self-published my book in 2022. I actually started writing it in 2009, researching and writing it. I wrote most of it between 2009 and 2011. And how all of this came together can only be described as an act of God over and over and over again, to be quite honest with you. But I mean, I didn't have to write a master's thesis. I hate writing, as a matter of fact. But a bunch of things happened that just pushed me in this direction. I was able to go back to Russia to research for my thesis. In 2002, I was able to go back and meet some of these people in these underground Christian movements some of them were still underground even in 2002. Even to the point where I went to the Bolshoi Theater in Moscow with people from my study abroad group, other Florida State students. And for some reason, my ticket was separate from everyone else. I ended up sitting next to this guy, this Russian dude, and talking to him. He was a member of the exact Pentecostal sect I was researching that had been underground during the Soviet period, that they were still underground. And he got me in to meet his church leaders and gave me a bunch of documents that I was able to translate and use for my thesis. There were just a number of things like that over and over again that I can't even fully explain. But yeah, I finally, I never was able to publish the book early on, even though I wrote most of it. I set it aside. I didn't pull it out again to finish it until 2021. And then that's when I came across some other people's works that really shook me even more. Speaking of, which I thought I knew a lot what was going on, but had to get caught up to all the woke stuff. with James Lindsay's content, Trevor Loudon's content with the infiltration of the evangelical church, which was very shocking to me because when I originally had written my book, the evangelicals had not been infiltrated yet substantially. And even to the point where I published my book in April of 2022, I thought that I was finally done. It had been 20 years since I began research for my thesis. And I was going to sleep well that night, but I pushed publish on Amazon, went to bed that night. I was up till 4 a.m. and I was seeing in my mind's eye, I was seeing concepts and things from my book in a cinematic form in my mind. And it felt like I was being shown that was the next step. So anyways, that's just the big beginning of how all this came about.
Wow.
So it seems like what you're saying is it's much of like the book being written, and I'm assuming also the film being made was kind of seemed like there's like a lot of almost like divine providence coming in and pushing you, giving you, offering you resources and things you can use, and kind of just continuing to put that task in front of you for you to finally complete it. And it's interesting that you started writing it in what you say it was 2009, was it, or 2011? 2009, and you didn't publish it. I'm going to assume that the Summer of Love and 2020, George Floyd, BLM, Antifa summer made you kind of want to get this out.
Yeah, I was like, wow, if I don't finish this book now, like I might not have time. That like it might be too late. So I was like, better get it done. But then I knew I had to finish researching some aspects of it, and I had a lot more to catch up on. And
yeah, well, Lindsay's work, because he has, I know we had just had James Lindsay on a couple weeks ago, and he's got so many books on it. I just finished The Marxification of Education, which I imagine you read as well, because I've seen a lot of the themes in your film. I actually got the chance to watch the whole thing today. I didn't think I was gonna have time to do that, but I did. Yeah, it's a great documentary. Like I really just want to share it with everybody, like people I know specifically and online, or personally, and then people online as well, because I think it's super important. But yeah, I'm sure that you probably felt like after that summer that, like, I mean, the timing is perfect. Like it's kind of, I feel like it's better that you waited so long for whatever reason, because it doesn't get more relevant than that, like following that year, right? So
totally, yeah. If I'd published it in 2011, like I initially had hoped, it
wouldn't have seen the issue. Yeah, like I probably would have been like, "What is she talking about? How is there communism in America right now? It doesn't really make much sense." But you could see it if you know anything about Maoism. You could definitely see that is that there's something going on in 2020, and even before that, 2015, 16, with the wokeness and cancel culture and the shout downs on universities and everything.
I mean,
yeah,
what really? I mean, I was seeing stuff that had me like, what exactly is happening? I was seeing stuff as early as I want to say 2011 and 2012. Like with the whole queer theory, with the whole shift towards like
the gender stuff.
I still remember initially, like a lot of people don't know about this, but Janet Mock, the dual interviews between him and Piers Morgan. And it was so crazy, and I know this is loosely related to what we're talking about, but I remember this interview because at first, the first interview that Mock had with Mock is a trans identifying male, and the first interview was Morgan basically talking to him like, you once were, you once were this, and now you're, now you're this, and we're trying to get to, try to get to know you. But then after, what really got me was the aftermath of that first interview. That was the first time I actually saw an online mob develop. And that screeching, and that's when I first heard the phrase "trans women are women." Right?
And how did you feel about that then, Isaiah? Because I know you were a Democrat back then, probably fairly progressive back then. Julie, I don't know if you know the background of our show, but we're both former Democrats.
Yes.
Probably both fairly far to the left. I wouldn't say super far, but progressive Bernie supporter at some point for me. So how did you feel about that, Isaiah?
I knew something was wrong. I knew that what I was seeing wasn't right.
Mm.
Okay, like there was something about it, like the screaming of trans women are women. And again, I'm bringing this up because of the queer theory angle, which is discussed in your documentary, Julie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This is just like, I knew something was wrong, and then when I started to see people who I knew were talking about this, we're talking about this stuff in very angry, like bludgeoning terms, like trans women are women, you know, and being like, if you don't accept this, you're a bigot, you're a piece of trash. And like after, so then the second interview was the militant Janet Mock, right? The militant, like I see it now as like the communist part of it, where, you must accept the reality that I am presenting to you, or else you're a bigot, you're a phobe, and I'm going to tear your entire life to shreds. Now, what were so now I turn to you, Julie. What were some of the first things that you began to notice here in the United States, like in your own life, like where, like in your neighborhood or wherever you started to see this?
Yeah. So for me, it's going to be a little bit different because it was 2008, and there was a very, very highly unpopular religious sect that most people consider a cult. And they had a government raid on their premises in 2008 in El Dorado, Texas. This is the fundamentalist Mormons, FLDS, polygamists. Again, I'm not personally, don't subscribe to their views. Not many people do. However, they had the government show up with snipers. They got their premises searched without due process. They had their children taken from them collectively with no due process. This was exactly what the Soviets did to their unpopular fringe Christian groups, is take their kids and put their kids in state care to protect the kids from their abusive religion of their parents. So as it turns out, in 2008, I don't know if you remember this incident, even the ACLU was defending the FLDS, and the government, the Texas government, had to give the kids back, but the damage was done. Warren Jeffs, who's the leader of that sect, I believe he's a sociopath. I feel like he's a very bad person. But that kind of shook me when that happened, because everyone around me was like, yeah, get those bad cultists, take their kids. And I'm like, wait, like, where is, like, there was no one accused. The mothers were not accused of being abusive. It was an abusive religion was the reason that they were taking the kids, because the girls might someday become polygamous. Anyways, that's going to be different than yours, but that was what was like reminded me of my thesis. That was one of the tactics I'd researched, is that the Soviets stopped persecuting all Christians after World War II. They kept their most heavy tactics for the fringe groups, the cults, the Baptists, the Pentecostals. That's who they were in the Soviet Union, the Jehovah's Witnesses. And they bludgeoned them, going back to bludgeoning. And then I looked, and the two other major tactics that I researched for my thesis that the Soviets used against the Christians were also in place in America. So that was the genesis for my book. The other tactics being anti-religious propaganda, pro-Soviet, pro-communist propaganda, and then infiltration of the churches. And I was shocked to find that very explicitly happening in America, beginning 1920s, earlier than that even.
You can see it with the Pope too.
Oh my God.
Pope Francis is pretty far left, isn't he? And I think he's been influenced by like liberation ideology, or Paulo Freire or something like that, or similar people to him, if not Freire himself. But yeah, I mean, he's been an extremely progressive, seem left-leaning Pope, and pretty openly so. And I'm I was born and raised Catholic. I don't remember so much condoning of some of the things he's been condoning.
Totally.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
right to the top.
The whole point of my thesis that I wrote in college, I was looking at which features or tactics of the different dissident Christian groups were most associated with their success operating in the Soviet Union, and which were most associated with failure. And I discovered that the feature most associated with failure was a highly centralized leadership. Because then those churches, once they were infiltrated, could be more easily taken over and the people led, off a cliff. The feature most associated with success, it was the underground Pentecostals in the Soviet Union had a very decentralized system where they empowered individuals. They called it the priesthood of the individual. They were not able to be infiltrated so easily. And also when they would arrest the leaders, it didn't matter because people would pop up. They were all taught that they had their own connection with God and they should ask God what their role is in the church. So the Catholic Church being so highly centralized was pretty easy pickings, unfortunately, for that kind of infiltration.
Yeah, infiltrate the clergy. Yeah, Pentecostal, that's interesting.
Who would you say? Oh, go ahead, Nick. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Isaac. Actually, I might just lost my train of thought, so go ahead.
Who are some, I guess, well, as we go into, I guess, the church, the infiltration of the church. Like, this is crazy for me because I grew up in conservative circles, right? Like I grew up a conservative. I was raised in what is now like fundamentally Baptist, right? But when I was younger, when I was like a kid and into my teens, this church was what was called Reformed Baptist. So it was always very much like it was pretty well insulated, we'll call it, against communism and against that kind of infiltration. What does that infiltration look like in praxis? To borrow one of their words. And who, in your opinion, would be an example of communist infiltration within the church?
Yeah. So you had the Rockefeller Foundation bankrolling people to infiltrate the churches starting way back again, like I said, 1920s. And what they would do is they would go into the seminaries and get positions teaching in the seminaries to influence up and coming clergy. And the church was kind of easy pickings, unfortunately, because it's really easy. The whole love thy neighbor thing is a central tenet of Christianity. So they were able to switch. Even again, there were people way back then explicitly shifting away from the individual relationship with God and Jesus atoned for your sins, which is the central tenet of Christianity. And then you can, repent, turn your heart to Jesus, and you be redeemed. They wanted to do away with that and turn it all to social justice work. And they did this very explicitly through the National Council of Churches that were part of the national, it was called the Federal Council of Churches first, and before that it was called the Methodist something or other. But they infiltrated this ecumenical organization, which is still, it's still around today. And you look at the denominations that are a part of that, many of them are the most infiltrated. You have the Episcopal, and I believe there's good-hearted, honest, true people in every faith. So I'm not like, every church, every major church especially, for sure, is infiltrated. Maybe not just with communism, but with other things too. So I'm not trying to like cast shade on anyone in particular, but the Episcopal, Methodist, Presbyterian are in the National Council of Churches. You have the Orthodox faith, but it's strange. The Orthodox Church, which was highly infiltrated in the Soviet Union, I mean, again, the KGB was running the church, even to the point where when the Soviet Union collapsed in the early 90s, the patriarch of the Russian Orthodox Church was a KGB agent. He is someone who had infiltrated. Yes, it is documented.
My God.
He had infiltrated decades before. They sent the KGB agents in to pose as clergy to go in and take over the Orthodox Church so they could control it from within. They infiltrated all the churches that they could. But the Orthodox Church was very highly infiltrated. But it's interesting that the Orthodox Church in America has not gone as woke as some of the other churches that are part of the National Council of Churches. But you even had, like, in the National Council of Churches, even back in the 60s, you had them publishing leaflets for teenagers, encouraging experimentation with sex out of wedlock. like very strange for churches to be promoting
Really?
that. You had really weird agendas being pushed, and
Wow.
it was wolves in sheep's clothing, and they pushed those churches left, further and further and further left, and they breached, then you have, Black liberation theology is a whole other movement. There's some really interesting things there. That was probably a KGB op. People who've researched it believe it to be a KGB op. And then you have
Black liberation theology as
yeah.
All right, I'm taking notes as you're going.
So where would this happen? This is like in American Black churches, primarily Black churches, or
Reverend James Cone was the founder of Black liberation theology. Black liberation theology was a retooling of the message of Christianity and turning the church into a struggle for Black liberation, and kind of trimming off the relationship with Jesus and the sins, and just it's all about liberation from oppression.
Social justice stuff. Yeah, it's
so
funny.
Kind of like, go ahead.
It's funny that you mentioned that about the social justice infiltration, because I just remember now. I went to a Catholic high school around 1999 to 2000-ish, early 2000. And I think I do remember a course that I didn't actually take, but it was moral and social justice was the name of the course, and it was like a religious course. It was one of our religion courses, so it might have already began that early, because it was a Catholic school, and that was the title of the class, like moral and social justice. That's the long march through the institutions.
Yeah, the Catholic Church, that infiltration is like a whole other topic. There's other books on that, but we touch on it some of the people I interviewed for Beneath Sheep's Clothing. But I mean, Bella Dodd, again, who was an agent who then later changed and became a whistleblower. She bragged, she recruited herself at something around 1,000 men to infiltrate the Catholic clergy here in America, who are communists. They themselves are communists, to go and infiltrate the clergy. So yeah, James Cone. That he's an interesting one. And then, what's his face? The preacher, Barack Obama's pastor.
Oh yeah, what was his name?
That guy.
Jeremiah Wright.
Yeah,
Jeremiah Wright. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's another prime example of a Black liberation theologist. Also, Raphael Warnock is another good example of a Black liberation.
Really?
He's a total communist.
That name sounds familiar. I'm not sure if I know
Raphael Warnock.
He's a senator.
Is a U.S. senator from Georgia.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And matter of fact, it was because I remember his election was elected in response to, I think when did he get elected? I want to say he got elected in either 2019 or 2020. I can't remember exactly. Might have been 2020, but I know it was him and John Ossoff who were like the two Democrats who got elected, and that's how Georgia, and like within so much of the voter fraud and everything else was going on, they got elected, as well as Georgia winning the state. I'm sorry, as well as Biden winning the state of Georgia. So that's a bad one. I did not know. I mean, I knew that Raphael Warnock was bad news because I've heard that he's a bit of a slumlord, but I did not know that he was into that whole Black liberation theology. That's incredible.
I'm putting that title on him, but just from statements I've seen him make, and he might not be as provocative as, let's say, Jeremiah Wright, but he goes in that direction, and he has all the hallmarks of being a communist pastor. So
what did Jeremiah Wright get in trouble for again? Was he saying something about white people?
America, not
goddamn America. Yeah, I remember that.
I think I heard that in the film.
I remember that.
I think you played that in the film.
His church in Chicago, he took this church from very small to just booming, but it was a big Black liberation theology church where, again, the whole gospel message is about oppression, of freeing Black people from oppression. That's the whole
critical race theory stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's him. Matter of fact, I'm pulling up his image right now so that people can see exactly what he looks like.
Wonder how they're doing right now, that church.
Yeah.
I hope it's falling apart, honestly.
Me too. Oh, definitely.
I mean, I'm gonna be honest, like the infiltration of the church is it's a sensitive topic for me because I've always been wary of organized religion. And I'm saying this as someone, like I said, I grew up Baptist, Reformed Baptist, whatever you want to call it. But every single church that I've been to, like, since, I'm not talking like with the blessed exception of the church that my brothers and I grew up in, and a couple other exceptions that I've been to over the years, I've always felt very, very nervous about organized religion. Like there was something else to it besides the saving of souls, right? Like besides the, service to God. And it was when and so to hear this stuff and to know that there were, at least in the Soviet Union, KGB agents posing as, I mean, this is probably going to descend into conspiracy theory mode, but what if Jamal Bryant down in Atlanta is a CIA operative? You know what I'm saying? Like, and I bring, for those of you who don't know, Jamal Bryant is the pastor of quite a large church down in Atlanta, Georgia. He is the former pastor, was forced out of Empowerment Temple in Baltimore, Maryland, my hometown. So I know him pretty. So I know him pretty. Actually, met him many years ago. He was a creep 20 years ago. But a lot of his dogma, a lot of the stuff that he talks about is very similar to. Matter of fact, let me see if I can find a picture of him. While I'm finding a picture of this, talk to, like.
I have something to say on the topic. I think
go. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I think it's important to note, and I talk about this in my book. I didn't have time. The film didn't have time to go into it. There's different levels of infiltrators, or people that are not just infiltrators. There's different levels of people who are enabling the communist agendas in our society, and even just within the church. You have at the very tippy top, you have the people that are bankrolling it, the money bags and the puppet masters. Then you have the avowed communists. It's another small group. It's like a pyramid scheme. The next level down, you have the fellow travelers, which is your progressives and leftists. And then you have, most of the people are dupes. Most people are duped. It sounds good that nobody wants, very few people in America want people of color to be oppressed. Okay. There might be like one or two wackos here and there. The vast majority of Americans do not like the sound of someone being, racially profiled or targeted for their race or treated poorly because of their race. And so It feels good to like, oh yeah, I'm helping, people who are oppressed. So a lot of these people are duped. So I can't say for sure which level people are at. I did pass judgment on Raphael Warnock, but he seems like a.
So the money bags, where's the money bags coming from, Julie?
Well, you do have George Soros involved in it, apparently. Apparently, George Soros helped to fund the infiltration of some of the evangelical seminaries in more recent decades. But early on, you had Rockefeller Carnegie foundations, and then other than that, I'm not sure.
Why would the Rockefellers or Carnegies do it all the way back then?
Very good question. Well, are you familiar with the book Wall Street and the Bolshevik Revolution?
No, I'm not. I've never heard of that.
So the premise of this book is, do you want to show this really quick, Isaiah, before we go on? You're muted.
Sorry about that. Yeah, keep talking. I'm just showing images so that the audience, so that those who are watching on video will know some of the people that we're talking about. Please continue.
Yeah, so Wall Street and the Bolshevik Revolution, it's mostly primary sources. The book is mostly primary sources showing that it was American businessmen who actually bankrolled the Bolshevik Revolution, American and European businessmen. And it was, so there was going to be a whole big profit share for the industrialization of Russia. And if they could like have some way to have a share of that, and I think maybe it was also part of like a social experiment to see, a control experiment. But I haven't read that book in a while, so I'm not fresh on all of the details. But
What's the name of that book one more time, please?
Wall Street and the Bolshevik Revolution by Anthony Sutton, Sutton. These robber barons, essentially, they were all about controlling and keeping their wealth and keeping their power. And communism was found to be a way to keep the populace down while at the same time appearing to be for the common man. And so they were funding, the Rockefellers were infiltrating every institution.
Boy, does that sound familiar, by the way. I just want to add, right?
Jesus. Yeah.
Taking as much as they can and getting as much power and money as they can, but also seeming, trying to look like they're for the common man.
Looking good. Yeah.
To the current Democrats.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Even one thing I found that the Rockefeller Foundation was not able to carry out, it was John Rockefeller III. At one point, they were trying to set up like a pension program for clergy globally that they would be in charge of. What happens if you hold the money, all the retirement funds for the world's clergy? Well, then you own the messages that they give.
Oh my God.
I know they didn't
quite a
succeed.
power play.
Wow.
Yeah, that was one that failed. But no, they infiltrated medical system. They took over the medical system, education, banking, all of these institutions, media. There was a takeover, a power grab, and the churches were obviously had to be taken as well. So
it seems like I think about it quite a bit because I'm like, why are these billionaires doing this? Why is George Soros doing this? If you were to have a communist revolution, you figure his head might be on a spike, but maybe not, because they love him, I guess. But I always think that perhaps what they're doing, and I think you kind of alluded towards it, is if they can have a revolution or have what the WEF says, like, you'll own nothing and be happy or whatever, that gives these super powerful, super power hungry, wealthy people the ability to kind of carve up the earth as much as they can. And what's the next thing to do if you're worth a couple $100 million or a couple $100 billion, I should say, or back then, hundreds of billions of dollars, or or you already have the power over everything you see. Basically, you're like, well, what else can I get? What else? I'm tired of this guy over here telling me what to do or trying to flex his power. I want to be more powerful than that guy too, until you own the whole earth. And you can divide everybody, right? You can divide people and make them look at fight each other because of their race or their gender or religion or whatever. And you can just you could be like, oh, have them fight, and then I'm going to pull some stuff here, maybe change a law there, maybe I'm going to buy a bunch of property here nobody's going to pay attention to. Or if there's a revolution or a war, you can own a lot of that land, probably, if it doesn't have any owners anymore, or if there's a big disaster, or like ends up like being like Gaza or something like that, then you can just go ahead and maybe buy Gaza or buy big swaths of it. So I mean, that seems to be the best explanation I could think of why they would do that. Because I don't think they give a rat's ass about an actual, really helping poor people or middle class people in that sense. It seems like an extension of wanting to just increase their power and wealth and property, at least at that level. But maybe I'm wrong.
Well, but then they get a lot of dupes to do their foot.
Sure, 100%.
And then a lot of these
useful idiots.
Yeah, and the dupes do want to help, and so that's why more people get duped. Like, oh, but so and so is doing this, is pushing this agenda, and I know that they actually care. So it's
I think most people on that side of it are useful idiots, and then there's people who are leaders, either organizers or educators, or and some of them are useful idiots too, like they're Marxist useful idiots that really think this is what we need to do. Like I know that for a fact. I know some people like this who they really 100% believe this is what you need to do. This is what we need to do is to take on these Marxist strategies. Maybe even the BLM people are like that. Like they're trained Marxists, basically Maoists, and maybe they really did believe that that's what they should do. But of course, what do? They took a lot of money and bought a bunch of houses, and as you do when you get in those positions of power, you become corrupt. Just like
isn't it
else.
Crazy?
Yeah.
Isn't it crazy how? And this is something I wanted that I caught wind of in in the documentary. It was the Russian aristocracy, guilty, who I guess were guilty about having it so good after living for nearly 1,000 years with all of this privilege and all of this wealth and all of this power. The Russian intelligentsia, the aristocracy, were like, okay, we need to do something. And the first thing they did was get influenced by Marx's teaching, by Marxism. It's crazy to me because it always am I wrong for noticing that? Like how it's always these, if it's not rich people themselves, if it's not these insanely wealthy, socially disconnected types, it's their children.
And the guilt they have. Yes.
It's right. It's either guilty,
wealthy
guilt. People. Right. Yeah. Right. It's these guilty people, or it's their kids.
Yes.
Is this a recurring, like have you noticed that recurring theme as well, Julie? Like in your studies of communism?
Yeah. And there's one more piece to the puzzle. There are people that have guilt, and also they are people that are post-religious, that have abandoned. And so there's that part of them. There's this hole, this vacuum. They're looking for a new religion, and Marxism fits the bill, I guess.
Yeah, well, utopian religion, basically utopian secular religion.
Yeah.
So I want to touch on. Well, I have a couple of questions. The first one is regarding Common Core, because you did touch. You mentioned something in the documentary about how Common Core math is a vector for much of the destabilization and the IQ lowering that we see today. Like, how did that start? Like what is that? Like what is that about? It's almost like an anti-education, as it were.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the steps along the path. So if you go back, I mean, you can go all the way back to John Dewey and his cohorts, early 20th century, that again, post-religious, they had been raised Christian, and they had abandoned Christianity. They had began to embrace socialism, and they were looking for to see, they were doing experiments actually in China on Chinese peasants to see how, if they could how much change could they enact in the society by educating people in a certain way. And they began doing various experiments in the 60s. They started doing whole language teaching, which was getting rid of phonics and teaching reading in a very dysfunctional way that greatly disrupted a lot of people's literacy being developed. Then Common Core comes later, obviously. Apparently Bill Gates, I learned this from Alex Newman, who I interviewed for the film. Bill Gates put in quite a lot of money for Common Core. Bill Gates also, I learned from Charlotte Iserby, who was a whistleblower who was working for the Department of Education under the first Reagan administration, and she came across all these documents. She saw their plans, that their goal was to create one curriculum, computerized curriculum for the entire globe, actually, and they would use it to dumb down and also to control the populace. And Bill Gates was involved with it back then in the late 70s in the documents that she saw. Yeah. This is according to Charlotte Iserby. She's passed away now, but a prominent whistleblower.
What are these documents?
Well, she has a book called The Deliberate Dumbing Down of America that mostly is those documents, various documents. It's a very thick book. You can actually
it cites those documents.
Yeah.
Okay.
It actually is some of the documents are copied. It's mostly primary sources.
Do you know who were circulating these documents? Was it like from the UN or like Bill Gates personally?
They were in the filing cabinets at the Department of Education, where she
Department of DOE.
She found them herself. Yeah. And she whistleblowed. Yeah. You can, and that book is free online too, by the way, The Deliberate Dumbing Down of America. And there's interviews with her. But she was trying to expose this, that they were going to dumb down the kids. They'd already had, there was one experiment I remember reading about I think it was in her book. In inner cities, in some US inner cities in the 60s, they were doing like, there's like Dick and Jane. Oh, see Dick run, see Jane, whatever. They were doing little like readers for kids in inner cities, in some of these inner cities, that was like, see Jimmy light the house on fire. It was very violent things for like little kids learning to read, inner city kids.
Really?
And
Oh my God.
yeah, so they experimented with that. There was an uproar about it, and so they had to stop doing that. But Common Core, that was added much later, was just one of the many steps of dumbing down. And I say this in my documentary, I actually had a really good public education. I had way above average, but still I was conditioned to be a cog in the system. I had to unlearn a lot of things because I ended up becoming an entrepreneur, and I never really did work in the workforce. I've been self-employed for over like 25 years. So I had to unlearn a lot of the conditioning given to me in the public schools, even though I did academically have a good education. So there's also that aspect of it. But now what we have with all the social and emotional learning, and the film lays it out, it's even worse than what the film Beneath Sheep's Clothing, even worse than what's laid out there. The mind control and the brainwashing of our kids, and converting them to a new religion. We might ourselves be Christian, but we're sending our kids to school. They're getting converted to the religion of woke
Yes.
Marxism.
Mhm.
So
Absolutely Marxism. I've never seen anything like it. I was, like in particular, in Baltimore, where I'm originally from. Again, I'm talking about the fruits of this.
yeah.
Came out a couple of years ago that exactly 0 high schools in Baltimore City could produce a child who could read at grade level or do math
Yeah.
at their proper grade.
It's terrible.
0. I think there was 0 kids were proficient at math. There was a small percentage of kids who were learning at, who were reading at grade level. But I find it to be like all of this just strikes me like I get well, I mean, obviously, I'm a little emotional because of, I was born and raised in Baltimore. But at the same time, it disturbs me greatly that this exists. I consider communism to be a film, like how we have film negatives, right? Like which are dark mirror images for those zoomers who might be watching, when we had 35 millimeter rolls of film. Okay. And you had these things called film negatives, right? Where if you didn't expose, you could actually see them, and when you could actually develop pictures from this. I know it's not like going to CVS or any of these places where you just say, here, I've got these out of Google Photos for kids. Okay.
It was the good old days, guys. You don't
Yeah,
remember
the
this?
good old, yeah, exactly. Red light and the whole bit. Anyways, communism is, in my opinion, the film negative to reality.
Yeah.
Everything about this, from making children, like I was like, there was a clip in the doc where like this guy's just asking random questions of people, just basic things that people should know.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
I've seen that a lot.
and
Seen a lot
yeah,
of those
and it's
videos
like,
too.
like how many states are there in the United States? 100? Like what?
Yeah.
Like it's
At least be close. I understand you don't know the exact number, but 100.
it's like
double the amount of states.
So it's literally like,
it's crazy.
They make you dumb. You can't read, you can't write, you can't do any math, but yet they know enough, these kids know enough that if something pops up on Snapchat or Instagram or something like that, they'll know to show up to a protest. Or they can be radicalized in an instant by a teacher or a professor or something like that. And I just find it so cruel. It's like this race to the bottom, and all of it is just, all of it is, I guess the end result of it is to just turn everyone into serfs, like serfs to the state. I mean,
it's like an inverse of wickedness. It's like going back to the feudalism that Marxism was apparently trying to get us out of. Isn't that funny? We've come full circle.
Do you see that though, Julie? Do you, in your studies, do you see are there parallels with feudalism with what's happening right now? Within okay, so we know they're trying to centralize power. We've got one, and they want to do one world. They want to have a one world government. But with the way in which they're organizing these, and centralizing their power, do you see these, do you see elements of feudalism in this, or am I just?
Well, they have to get rid of the middle class. They can't have a middle class. So I certainly see the war on the middle class is very, very well underway.
It's very hard to get property.
Yeah, I mean, they're moving towards this 15-minute city model. They're gonna, they I'm talking about is not most people who work in government, but the people behind the strings. They're decimating the middle class, and then they're going to pose as saviors, and be like, oh, but now we have these solutions. Come and live in our high density housing and get our universal basic income. But you got to make sure you have the right viewpoints, or maybe we're not going to give you.
They're already trying that here in New York.
Social credit scores.
Yeah.
The first step to that, Julie, not to cut you off, but the first step to that here, what they've been doing is congestion pricing. Where they've cordoned off, the local government here has cordoned off the lower half of Manhattan from 60th Street down to the bottom of the island, the bottom of Manhattan. And for $9, you can drive through our local streets. Or if you don't like that, you can take the train. Yeah. They're trying to bring this. They're trying to expand this. I live in Brooklyn. They're trying to expand this to the outer boroughs. And I've said, and I see the pattern. It's like, we're gonna start with congestion pricing. We're gonna see how it works in Manhattan. Then we'll spread it out to the outer boroughs, and then make it so that way they make it prohibitively expensive to drive.
Yes.
And that way we can put you on public transit, which up to this point was never one of these things where you could be like, oh, well, they had to force people to ride. But because they don't want to do anything to make the subway system safer up here, it's like, oh, you just have to deal with it. So what if you run the risk of getting lit on fire or pushed in front of a train, or what's the latest thing that happened? There's crazy stuff that happens in the New York City subway on a daily basis. And
the homeless people is being crazy homeless people, all the nasty stuff they do. Plus they get to make some money off you too while they're doing it. And they also get to experiment. And how much can they squeeze you? How much can they push you and push you around before before maybe you really fight back or something like that? Even Jordan Peterson said before, he said what they'll do is they'll push things a couple inches until somebody tells them, hey, wait a second, what are you doing? And then they stop. And then when you're not paying attention anymore, they start pushing a little bit further. So I think that's been happening for a long time now, Isaiah. But go ahead. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No, no. You're fine. I mean, it's just I've noticed. It's like when you see this stuff, you can't unsee it. And
you guys might be surprised. You might be surprised to know that they're doing this stuff in Utah, where I live too.
Oh, I've been hearing about this.
So it's not just
what are they doing out there?
Yeah, what are they doing?
I just drove past the first 15-minute city that's under construction. Ironically, at the site of the old state prison, They raised the prison and relocated it, and now they're
Get out.
building.
Come on.
I'm completely serious. And they're building this 15-minute city at the same area of super high density and walkable city. And they're trying to do more with trains. Like, I don't have a problem with mass transit. I think mass transit can be really good. I just don't want to do away with private vehicle ownership. There's a lot of efforts that they're slowly putting the chokehold on. And I don't live in the Salt Lake area. I live down closer to, you guys hear me?
Yeah,
we hear you now. Yeah, you froze for a second.
You're back.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyways, especially up in Salt Lake City, they are doing the high density housing. They're putting the chokehold on on cars, and there's a lot more they have planned. And so it's going to be, they'll spread this. If we don't, we, the people, don't stand up to this, they'll spread this everywhere. So, yeah.
So Julie, so that's interesting that Utah is very susceptible to this, and Salt Lake City. So I'm assuming then, based on what you said before, and based on that the woke neo-communists, neo-Marxists have infiltrated the Church of Latter-day Saints. Is that right?
Okay, that's a very interesting topic, and not as much. So the LDS Church is not susceptible to infiltration in the same way as other churches because we have a lay clergy. So it has not been infiltrated in the same way. It has gotten in there. Globalism and wokeism and pro-UN stuff has gotten in.
Environmentalism, I'm assuming, is probably a big one.
About it, yeah. But there's other things. There's other things that have apparently infiltrated the LDS Church.
Oh my goodness!
And I want to hear that too. But just secondly, before I forget, would you say then that if not so much, I mean, obviously it sounds like they have been, but do you also see, and this is probably true, do you also see that Salt Lake City and Utah have maybe become a little more secular in the last 10, 20 years? Maybe people don't believe quite as much, or they're kind of casually Mormon, things like that.
Yeah, I lived in Salt Lake. I lived in downtown Salt Lake for almost 9 years, but I left about 8 years ago. And every time I go back to visit Salt Lake, it's just shocking to me how, and look, I have good friends there, and there's a lot of great people there. This is one thing I came across in my research. I don't have all the information on. It's so interesting. We talked about Black liberation theology. The guy who started it, Reverend James Cone, I found where he attributed that. He said that there was this white couple at his seminary that put him up to it, that gave him the idea for Black liberation theology. And their last name was Boyack. I can't remember the first names anymore. Those individuals moved to Salt Lake City after they were done radicalizing Reverend Cone. And they were big in the non-LDS religious communities in Salt Lake. And I don't even know like what all they were up to. But they were big movers and shakers, probably pushing churches left and doing who knows what. But wow.
And where did they come from originally? You said before they came to Salt Lake City. Where were they?
Somewhere in the Midwest.
I wonder how many other places they might have went to. That'd be interesting to track those people, because maybe they're operatives, or maybe they're working for somebody. That's interesting. Like, why do they just travel around trying to push everybody to the left and into liberation ideology, or different Marxist offshoots, really?
Yeah,
that's really interesting.
So tell me, Julie, is the name of this development Utah City?
It's called The Point.
The Point. Okay, so I'm looking at the wrong one. All right.
There's a lot of plans in place for many 15-minute cities, but the one that I was referring to is called The Point.
And I imagine there's probably some good things that come out of it. It's probably not like a complete net negative. But
exactly.
But it does again seem like they're pushing towards, people not having property, people living in maybe tighter and tighter quarters, people not having homes. So maybe you don't have families because you live in these little tight quarters. So you're like, I don't have enough room for family. I don't have enough money to start a family, which all seems to play into the hands of, people become more conservative generally when they have families and children, for one thing, but also can play into the hands of people who are just, trying to take more money from people, make them spend more on consumer goods, on countless, brunches and going out and traveling and all the stuff you do when you're single all the time. And not not pooling your resources together, living in one home, for example, or something like that. And that's seems like that's increased opportunities to make more money, especially if you have a whole rental class.
Yeah, and another thing in Utah that disturbs me is the war against agriculture here. And I mean, I don't know what it's like where you guys live, but we have a lot more open space, and they're really going against farmers. And there's a lot less agriculture now in the state of Utah than there used to be. It used to be a very high priority for this state to produce a lot of its own food, and
they're not doing it anymore.
Not as much.
And that's not, if you think about it, how it's so unwise to do that. Like you should delete if you can, and it's a big part of your culture, and you have the climate, you have the soil and everything. Like, of course, you want to have your own food locally, because then you don't have to rely on anybody else, right?
You've got to see this. You've got to see this. I got to share this.
Very
this
interesting.
Is so. I found the website for The Point, and this board, this is a rogues gallery of lizard people, man. Look at this.
It kind of looks like George Soros on the right.
Right. So hold on a second. So we've got Jordan Teuscher, the House Speaker appointee, Lowry Snow. I don't know who these people are. Let me see. This is the board. The Point of the Mountain State Land Authority. So you've got Jordan Teuscher, Lowry Snow, Jerry Stevenson. Look at these people. Like they're barely smiling. They look fake. Like this is.
It'd be interesting to look at the mission statements above. Like, let's see some of their bullet points. See if we
the
see
mission statement. Let's see about commit. Let me see our team.
I bet you the word diversity will be in there.
Well, let me
equity.
Let me see board meetings. Our team. Let's go home. Innovation community. The Point is widely recognized as one of the most important quality of life opportunities in Utah history. It consists of 600 acres of state-owned, of course, state-owned land that is being built into Utah's innovation community. Let me see, first phase of development. Look at this.
It's like a prison.
It really does.
Yeah.
It really does. And what's crazy to me is I have a friend who used to he coached over in he coached out there in Sandy not too long ago. He was a soccer coach. And the pictures he used to take of the mountains out there were stunning.
It's a beautiful area.
Honestly, y'all have just shout out to you in Utah for having
I'd love to visit
some of the most beautiful natural this is gorgeous. I got to see this for myself.
Yeah,
but,
I'd like to.
Not the Point, but Utah itself.
Not the Point.
The Land Authority has released. Listen to this shit. The Land Authority has released the Phase 1 development plans that reflect what Utahns want at the site. Like, really?
Yeah, I'm surprised I'm not seeing more explicitly woke talk, but
there's a lot of backlash against woke talk. I have to say that the governor of Utah is a Republican. He is a rhino. He's in this completely. He got elected through fraudulent means, reelected just recently.
Oh my
and
God.
Our Republican Party is very infiltrated in Utah, very, very deeply infiltrated. John Curtis, who we just elected to replace Mitt Romney, speaking of infiltrated,
right?
He used to be the head of the Democrat Party in Utah County. Anyways, we have we have super corrupt our Republican Party in Utah, and we have a lot of people that are just fall for, if you have an R by your name and if you're LDS, then it means you must be good. And I know that my cousin went to school with their child, so they're good. So we're trying to wait.
Is Romney still pretty? I'm assuming he's still pretty popular there.
Not amongst anyone I know.
But not amongst the MAGA crowd, but everybody else, I imagine, because he's also kind of like you said. He's kind of like a rhino as well. Right? He's always been, pretty moderate, and now he's obviously. I think he's been pretty anti-Trump, if I remember correctly. So he's basically a Democrat in many ways at this point.
He's a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Interesting. Because I imagine he was a legend there for a while. I mean, he was the only. Is he the only Utah presidential candidate ever? that
He
true?
wasn't from Utah. He's not from Utah.
Oh, that's right. He's from Massachusetts, right?
Yeah. And he
So
grew
he's
up
a
in-
carpetbagger on top of.
But he's a Mormon, so you guys
He's a
probably
Mormon.
like
Yeah.
that about him.
He's a carpetbagger. He moved to Utah so he could run for Senate. He's never in Utah. He's not
That's-
in Utah very often.
That's right. You're right. Thank you
Jeez.
for correcting me. Yeah, I totally forgot about that. Forgot that he was.
Wow.
I thought he's from our neck of the woods.
But the last name Romney is very prevalent, and there's some people high up in the LDS Church with that last name, or at least in the past there were. So it feels close to home for Utah people to have that last name.
So all right. So would you say that there is any acknowledgement to like from the LDS that this is going on, and maybe you got to be on a lookout, like what you're talking about in your film, that like, hey, we're getting infiltrated, like maybe we got to fight back against this before this replaces us, like this woke ideology replaces our religion and totally howls it out. Is there any of that?
Not from the top. There is some people on the bottom, but not from the top. It's a hard topic for me. My background is LDS. I'm not really active LDS at the moment, but my son did just get baptized last year, and I'm in kind of my own little category right now because of some of the tenets I still adhere to, but I see the infiltration and it's disheartening. I don't think all the leadership is corrupt. I don't know. I don't have the answer for that. I just have to give a shout out to some friends of mine. They're actually friends who ended up helping me find the person who funded my film. Jason and Alexia Preston with We Are the People, Utah. Their podcast is exposing all this corruption in Utah. And for anyone who's interested in this topic, they have highly detailed podcasts with interviews with people giving nitty-gritty details. So they're doing a great service for the state of Utah.
What was the name of the podcast? We Are the
People.
We Are the People.
Yeah, with Jason Preston, Alexia Preston.
Okay, excellent.
All
excellent.
right.
Yeah, give them a listen for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What's their matter of fact? I'll set this up right now. What's their website? I'll put it up. I'll make a banner right now and put it up.
Let me see. We Are the People. Hold on a second. Let me make sure this is their website.
Oh, hold on. We got on.
wearethepeople.org.
wearethepeople.org. Okay, let me just put that up there.
How influential would you say your documentary has been in Utah and Salt Lake City area? Like, is there a little bit more of a groundswell there? Like, oh, it's one of our own. Like, oh, this is really. Did you see any of that or no?
Somewhat, yeah. We screened an earlier version of the film in January of 2024, and we did a screening in close to Salt Lake City, and actually Jason and Alexia invited a lot of politicians and prominent people who did see the film, and I do feel like it's had an impact on policy to some degree. Utah's they've banned DEI. The problem is that all you have to do is change the language and it's still DEI.
Change the titles, change the layout.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's had a moderate impact, I think. And I'm wanting to do a screening for our school board members here because
That'd be great.
A lot of people are still clueless. So
yeah, the more you're able to spread this, the better. I mean, I don't know if you can get it to the Trump administration. Has Chris Rufo shared it? Like, this is kind of right up his alley as well, and I'm sure James Lindsay has.
I don't think so. Look, James Lindsay, who obviously is very prominent in my film, he's ruffled some feathers.
Yes,
as he does.
Some?
What's that?
Some?
Yeah.
Kind of what he does.
He's in an online feud with Chris Rufo at the moment.
Yes.
I saw that.
Oh, that sucks.
But
we'll
it's
share
because Chris Rufo is saying that he wants to use Antonio Gramsci's tactics on the right.
Right, I saw that.
Please explain what you mean by that.
I mean, so I read some of what Rufo was talking about. And to a certain extent, I can understand why he targeted Gramsci, because let's be honest, the entire capture playbook that communists have, they would not have known to target law, the family, education, and all the rest. They would never have known how to do it if it were not for Gramsci. So to a certain extent, I can understand why there would want to be a focus on getting, fighting fire with fire, right? I can understand that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I do understand the potential to, and I've it shames me to say I'd never watched like Return of the King, like two out of the I've only watched one of the Lord of the Rings movies, but like I screwed myself up on the Lord of the Rings. I watched the Two Towers first.
Oh.
You should watch them all again, man. They're good.
I should.
And the Hobbits are good too. They're great movies.
No,
great
they're
stories.
not. The Hobbits are I got tons of them outside. They scare me. I'm joking. No, like I can understand that there's the desire to use the Gramscian tactics to get the people who have captured the institutions out of them.
Well, they're effective, right? I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know the full story of like what James thinks or other people. And I know it sounds dangerous to use like, Marxist tactics, and you don't want to become the monster yourself. But I don't see necessarily, and again, I haven't thought about this too deeply yet. So you probably, Julie, you probably have some rebuttal that could be useful. But I don't see why it's so bad to use like just the power flexing tactics, the way to infiltrate, take over institutions, whatever it is, without all the other nonsense. Like as soon as you get the power, then you leave it. Then we can just go back to basics. It's not like you have to be a Marxist to do it. It's just like a couple tactics, like a military strategy almost. So that's the way I'd look at it. But I don't know. I haven't really thought about it deeply. What do you think? Do you think it's dangerous?
I think the focus on power is makes me concerned. I think the focus should be on liberty and on constitutional principles.
Absolutely.
We do need to take over our culture. I don't really like the focus on power. And as far as like muscle flexing, I would prefer to see it more as like grassroots people just stepping up and saying, we don't want this anymore. We're not doing this anymore.
Of course.
We're doing this instead.
And to a certain extent, I mean, that's already happening, right?
Yeah,
like the people, like for one, voting for Trump obviously was how many people, myself included, who was a Democrat from up until last year, voting for Trump and getting out of that whole left-right dichotomy was quite integral to that, right? Like, so now so voting for people on the federal level and then obviously on the state and the local level, like there is a necessity as we the people to use those. Hold on a second. Thought I had to sneeze for a minute. There
it is. Gesundheit.
Hey, Matt. There is a desire, I understand the necessity to use for we the people to use our constitutional power, our duty as citizens to get these people the hell up out of our government. But at the same time, there are non-constitutional means, like in business and in culture and in the institutions, like in the entertainment industry, and producing like parallels to, effective parallels to what are already, quote unquote mainstream. So I get it, but at the same time, I don't know. Maybe I need to talk.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I don't know Gramsci's full philosophy and everything. So I'm sure there's a lot of scary stuff in it. And I totally agree with you, Julie. Like I would like all of those things, preferably as well. What you're talking about. Definitely don't want us to be becoming like, Marxist fascists or something like that. Like liberty is the way to be, free speech,
Exactly.
Groundswell, having moral authority, having the moral high ground, keeping the Constitution. But anything that can be done, my point is anything that can be done within that maybe is just highly effective within those parameters. Like I definitely don't want to put people in jail for speaking out. I don't want to put woke people in jail for speaking out or something like that. Don't need to ban books unless, I think some books should be banned from like public libraries and public schools, or at least restricted from certain age groups or whatever it is, just because they're inappropriate. I mean, you don't have like a Mein Kampf hanging out in people's school libraries, right? At least I don't think so. Or putting them up front and center for all the kids to see when they walk in, like on the display, which they do with plenty of woke books, like genderqueer and stuff like that, right? Like that's totally inappropriate, and it's genderqueer. Nothing to do with fascism or anything like that. That's horseshit.
Books like that are an abomination that do need to be taken off shelves.
Pornographic images, which I've
seen, especially if
totally
they're right, exactly. If, like kids, like they're placed on those shelves, genderqueer and all boys aren't blue, and and my brown eye or whatever the fuck, like that. Those books should be kept far, far away from kids. But for some reason, these Marxists, these queer theory addled freaks, they run right to the kids, and it's wild to me. Just a switch. I mean, so let me ask you this: with the White House, with the Trump administration, coming out with this new page on the White House White House website called Lab Leak: The True Origins of COVID-19, in which it is now stated as a matter of as a letter from the federal government as to what COVID's origins truly were, like true transparency. My question to you, Julie, is, as we've both lived through the last 5 years, was with the COVID pandemic, was the true pandemic always communism?
Communism / globalism. I mean, greater control over the populace. That seems very, very apparent, to be able to push these different agendas and under the guise of, public health, and with a good reason. Look, initially, in early, let's say March, April of 2020, I was not personally opposed to lockdowns because I was like, I don't know what we're dealing with here.
Sure.
A lot of us weren't.
So let's see what's happening here, because it looks like people are dropping dead in China. Apparently that wasn't really the case. I don't know. I don't know. I have not delved into every single aspect of this, but they were I can't remember the name of it. They actually there's a document that I read. Actually, Alex Jones put this out. It was a government document where they were like a war game for a pandemic, and how.
Yes, I saw that. Yeah, I heard about that, Elise, and heard him talk about that, and some other people too. Yeah.
It was even talking about how there would be online influencers that would go against the government, and they would have to try to silence them, and even very specific things. So it's very obvious that the encroaching government hand that came as a result of everything with COVID was choreographed to be that way on purpose. And that was, for globalist / communist / fascist tyrannical purposes.
The cult of the state, global, the cult of the state, global edition.
Yeah.
It's so, this is crazy. I did want to talk to you about this because this was another someone that I saw in the documentary that was of some interest to me. Tell me more about this. The Russian, the one who was the former POW. Who was a double amputee? What did you learn from him? I mean, I know he had a story to tell.
Yeah, Carl. Yeah, when I met him, he was very disabled, and the missionaries were helping him and taking him out and taking him on walks and various things. And I didn't hear his story from his own mouth. He was already pretty aged at that point, but I heard it from the missionaries who had gathered his story. And then come to find out, I was telling his story to Timothy, the other Russian the gentleman that I interviewed in the film, and he's like, "Oh, it was total policy. All of the people of German ethnicity who were prisoners of war, Nazi POWs during World War II, when they were released from the Nazi POW camps, the Soviets sent them to the Gulag. All of them.
Did it happen with Solzhenitsyn too? Alexander Solzhenitsyn? I think so.
Well, Solzhenitsyn did spend some time, but he wasn't an ethnic German.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just thinking about, because he came back. I'm sorry. Yeah, you're talking about ethnic Germans. He came back from war with the Russians, and he got thrown into a gulag, didn't he? Because they were worried that he was influenced by Western.
Did they
perhaps? What's that?
They may have put everyone who was a Nazi POW in the gulag, but they were especially suspicious of ethnic Germans.
I think they did it to Russians too, or at least Solzhenitsyn and some other ones. Like, they thought they were influenced by, after defending the homeland bravely and being in a freaking Nazi work camp.
How is
then
it?
He
like,
returned, and that
is ridiculous.
Yeah, and then they're like, well, you spent a lot of time in the West, so you're gonna have to deprogram you. Yeah,
right.
What a way to treat your returning heroes, huh?
Like, that's worse than what we do to our. That's worse than what we do to our vets here. I'm dead serious.
That's saying a lot.
And I'm not even. And let me tell you something. I'm not taking that. I'm prior service. I'm not taking that back.
Yeah.
Okay. The fact that the veterans here in the United States are literally, like, in true Hegelian fashion, used and then discarded. A lot of them, especially in prior wars, lived most of their lives in mentally broken states on the street. That's better than getting. I mean, I would argue that's better than getting thrown. Like, from you basically trade one prison camp for another.
Yeah. No, that's one of the worst things that could happen.
I have never heard of that. And I like
one of the worst things that could happen to you is this
is, and again, this is what I was talking about earlier, where you think about how evil these people truly were, and then you hear about this. Oh no, we are going to take you to our gulag.
You think you're gonna have a hero's welcome?
Oh my God.
No hero's welcome. Yeah, and it goes with what Julie said, or somebody said in the documentary in Beneath Sheep's Clothing, that there's no. I think you said, if not, you said it in a podcast with maybe Benjamin Boyce. I listened to that as well. I have a question about that as well, because you said something on there. It's interesting. But what you said, or somebody said, that it was that they don't really care about individual rights. It's the individual doesn't really matter to communists. Like, it's all about the state. It's all about the party, the power of the party, and probably the up top power of the party and the ideology. And everybody else is just completely what's the word? You can just throw them away. Disposable. That's the word I was looking for. Yeah. Just to execute mass executions, mass starvation, throw them in camps. Who gives a shit? Who cares about these people? These are just. It's all about the revolution. It's all about the party.
The whole populace is cannon fodder for the cause, for the communist cause.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess I should say while it's mentioned. So I listened to your interview with Benjamin Boyce, and one thing I think you said that communism is related to narcissism. Does that ring a bell to you?
Yeah, I mean, if you look,
I was wondering how do you think that those two things go hand in hand, and how that relates to woke and social justice culture now today? Because obviously we just had a talk with Josh Slocum about this, and how it's heavily cluster B, heavily narcissistic, kind of mindset, culture, political messaging, education, all of it.
Shout to the Jacob Urofsky professor of disaffection, Joshua Slocum. He's fantastic.
How much do you think narcissism relates to communism in general? Like, is it like a defining feature of the ideology when it's in practice across nations? Yeah.
Let's just say I've had some run-ins with some narcissists in my life. Uh-huh. And I came to understand the narcissistic abuse playbook quite well. And I noticed when I was interacting with woke activists online that it was the same playbook. And, just looking closer. I mean, I think narcissism, this is whatever, you can say this is crazy. This is just my personal views.
Come on with it.
Communism is the government, this like a satanic form of government, like the ultimate
Mhm.
satanic form of government.
I agree with that.
Mhm.
And narcissism is a satanic way of dealing with your fellow man. So
Mm.
it would just make sense that there would be a lot of that. I mean, there's a lot of
Yes.
sadistic stuff that goes along with communism as
is.
well.
I
But
think
Or like how I call it, communism is the religion of the self made manifest by the state.
mm,
Because that's basically the same thing. I mean, I have never seen, it's like literally a cult of communal narcissists who get together and decide we're going to force everyone to do and have our priorities
yeah.
under penalty of law and death and imprisonment and all the rest.
And
I mean,
we're God. We're going to take the place of God to act as if we know how to enact this equitable redistribution of everything.
and eventual utopia, which of course never arrives. One thing I see between the two, because I know narcissistic personality disorder is frequently, or maybe always, it's very delusional. The person is kind of warps reality around them to shape what they emotionally would like to be the reality. Like, oh, I'm never wrong. I'm like I'm the smartest person. I'm the best, most talented person, whatever. And they warp reality in that way, and it's very similar to communism. It seems like, where they just don't admit they're wrong. State will never admit they're wrong. We have to just keep on abusing people and forcing them to do this and forcing them to do that. If they don't, we'll kill them, because this has to work and it's going to work and we are right. And I think both of those things are common with the narcissists and communists and Marxists, where it's like, we'll warp reality as much as we have to and just live a lie. Solzhenitsyn was very explicit about that in the Gulag Archipelago, where I think he said something to the effect of like they're lying to us, we're lying to them, and they know we're lying. Stuff like that. He also had a joke of like, we pretend to work and they pretend to pay us.
yeah.
Which is it's funny and really terrible at the same time. But yeah.
I mean, look, I did not live in the Soviet Union myself. I didn't go to Russia until 1997. So I can't speak for narcissism amongst, rank and file communists in the Soviet Union per se, but just my experience dealing with woke Marxist activists, there seems to be quite a heavy reliance on narcissistic abuse tactics. So.
Yes, 100%.
So one of the next things I want to ask you about is something, the phenomenon that we've been through. We talked a lot about, the infiltration of communism from the left side of things, but we haven't really talked about, or maybe we did, we touched on it a little bit, about what communism looks like coming from the right. I want to play a portion of your a clip from Beneath Sheep's Clothing, featuring our mutual friend, Dr. James Lindsay, amongst others, where they discuss Christian nationalism. And I'll let this play through, and then we'll talk about it on the other side.
There's a movement, it's called Christian nationalism, and the idea, of course, sounds like you want to make the United States a Christian nation. And it means a variety of things, right? What does that mean? It could mean, let's increase the amount of Christian belief in the nation. Let's get more people in civic office that are Christians. Let's bring Christian values into public life more visibly, or into elected office more expressly. Let's base our law more expressly on Christianity, or let's in fact have a theocracy. It could be a lot of different things. Now, the hallmark of an op is that there's a vague word that can mean a lot of things that's very polarizing, because it allows you to shift around between different meanings. The left and the government have been harping on the idea of Christian nationalism for 2 decades. They're making documentaries about how it's the biggest problem and biggest danger to the US. This is them setting narratives. They set a narrative, wait for a event to happen, a shoe to drop, and then all of a sudden that narrative's in the back of people's heads, and this thing that's a looming menace becomes a clear and present problem we have to change everything to deal with. There's also documentation from the January 6th House Select Committee, as it was called, to investigate that. Multiple 56-page document, for example, outlining how the true cause of January 6th as an insurrection and an imminent threat to the United States was actually Christian nationalism. And it calls explicitly for two solutions to this problem to prevent the calamity of another January 6th on a greater scale. One is to limit the ability for public officials to express Christianity in public life. So separation of church and state, they call it. And the second is to monitor churches as though they are places that can generate domestic violent extremism. In other words, to put them on government watch lists. And that will be the end of independent Christianity.
This is all according to the dialectic, and this is a very simplified version of the dialectic. But remember that that's problem, reaction, solution. But then what you want to do is you want to create the reaction. And I knew back in 2012 that the reaction to the problem, reaction, solution, would be Christian nationalism.
Christians in particular who have awakened to what's going on are extremely frustrated. They realize the law only works in their favor sometimes, and sometimes it very much doesn't. Sometimes it's very unjust. They realize they are completely silenced through media. They realize that they have very few, something's going on at their school. They show up, they complain to the school basically tells them to pound sand, and they don't really have any recourse. In fact, the only recourse they have is to pull their kids out of school and then deal with the relentless fights where they're going to try to take on and get rid of homeschooling too. So people are very frustrated. When you're very frustrated, you become desperate for solutions, but you also become desperate for emotional release, what's called catharsis. And you want that energy to be able to go somewhere. And so when I look at these kind of more extreme interpretations of what we should do now, take action now, whether it's Christian nationalists, they're pretty big on that. What they're not looking for is solutions. What they are looking for is that emotional release, and to take the pent-up emotions of lots of people with them down a path of desperation and foolishness that will be used against us. The communists are brilliant at setting up their opponents to make a mistake that they'll then take advantage of. Saul Alinsky wrote about it in Rules for Radicals explicitly. Your opponent's reaction is your real action. Get them to do something dumb whenever possible, and then frame it so that they look like extremists or whatever else, so that you can justify bringing state power or public opinion against them. That's literally their game.
Where to begin?
Yeah, that's a major concern, and that's one of the first things I was worried about when I saw January 6th and what happened, watching that live, and I was like, oh my goodness, like what's this is they're going to use this forever, and they did. They're going to use this forever against you guys, and it's setting it's just, I mean, just you lost the election, just leave it alone. Try to win next time, which you probably will, which Republicans did. But doing it that way and causing a scene, and of course there was agitators and federal agents creating an op as well. It seemed pretty clear that that's actually the case, and people call you conspiracy theory for saying that, but it seems like there's plenty of evidence for that. And we know that the CIA has done things like that before. So why are we surprised? But yeah, that's a great point, and I think we conservatives need to not take the bait. Because it sets everybody back, and then it gives them, license and argument to crack down on anybody on the MAGA side, or on anybody who's a conservative, or anybody who's associated with anti-wokeness or something like that can suddenly be put on a list and be like, they're terrorists. This is what they'll do, and that's what they did in many cases. Even they did it with the parents as well, who were asking about, was it gender stuff, whatever was going on in schools, and just asking about it. I think they made them put them on a list as well. The FBI did, or something, as was it terrorist, or what was terrorist watch list? Do you guys remember what it was? Is that what it was?
Yeah, I was put on that terrorist watch list.
You were put on that list? Oh my
Day
God.
after
my
I
God.
wrote my book, I had someone tell me that they turned me in as a domestic terrorist. But I mean, yeah, the Christian nationalist thing, I think now this, that those interviews were filmed. One of the interviews with James there was filmed in February of last year. Another one was filmed even earlier. Now we have the greater woke right movement that's coalescing with, we have some anti-Semites. We got some crazy misogynist things going on.
Racist. Yeah, some racists in there too.
And most of these people are probably operatives. There's probably only but they're taking well-meaning people with them to be this reaction, this reactionary wing that can then be pointed at as being, look at all these racist Nazi, MAGA people.
And they're the most dangerous. What did Biden say? Where the MAGA Republicans or whatever are the most dangerous, the biggest threat, domestic threat to America. That was the quote. The biggest domestic threat to America. Which I remember hearing that. I was like, "Are you kidding me, dude?
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about? How could that be?"
I just always thought it was. Like a massive, massive projection, because I mean, we're talking about. I mean, Joe Biden was one of the last, as Mark Levin said, he was one of the last segregationists. We're talking about a guy who eulogized Strom Thurmond. This is the guy who basically, who treated Justice Clarence Thomas like with such contempt, during his confirmation hearings in the 1990s. I mean, we're talking about a political party in general. Like here in New York, Governor Kathy Hochul said that Black and Hispanic kids in the South Bronx don't even know what a computer is. Okay. It was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. These are I'm dead serious. It's like all of the things that we've seen over the last several years, even January 6th itself was a projection. First off, it was a CIA, it was an FBI and DHS psyop. January 6th was. The federal government set that up and agitated it within the crowd. Number one. Number two, they tried to hype this up like it was. I mean, the Democrats have literally spent the last 5 years, 4 years now,
every day
hyping this up as some great crystal knocked, at one point I stupidly called it the Capitol Putsch. And these people have literally used that as their cudgel. And even now they're apoplectic because they weren't supposed. But here's what's crazy to me. And here's why I call this projection. They tried to kill Trump twice.
Mm-hmm.
Trump almost got head tapped on live television. That man was never supposed to walk out of Butler, Pennsylvania alive.
Mm.
World War III was supposed to start right then and there. And by the grace of God, it didn't. Okay. Yeah. But where is the projection coming up? Let me give you another example.
I got some examples too.
While I'm on, I think you might know of one. This kid that just got busted. Yeah, here we go. This one I wanted. This is it right here. This kid, Nicholas Decker. He wrote a Substack piece last week, and he says the ultimate source of political power is and always will be violence. If the present administration, they're online right now calling for the assassination of the president of the United States. I have, for all of their caterwauling, for all of their bleeding about how absolutely horrible January 6th was, the second these bastards get thrown out of power, they are just flat out openly removing the veil and saying, I want to unalive the president of the United States. I want to unalive Elon Musk and saying all of this ridiculous. So everything about these people is projective and abusive and narcissistic. It sickens me. It really does.
Oh, also you can also point at, so January 6th was one day. Well, it was, like you said, it was looked like it was agitated on purpose by the feds, but but it wasn't a good look, right? There's a lot of bad that came out of it. It was, certain ways that they were filming it definitely looked bad. Somebody died, but at the same time, it's like that was one day, and then you have the 2020 BLM Antifa riots for like a whole year. Every night, trying to set fire to courthouses. Well, I mean, that's federal. Those are justice, buildings of justice. Like nobody gave a crap about that on CNN. Nobody. It's those right wing talking points, conspiracy theories, all the stuff that Andy Ngo was reporting that year. And so it was like at least a year, and it still probably happens. Just in Portland and Seattle.
So
I mean, like this is, but that's totally fine. They just ignore that. Constant domestic terrorism and destruction and tearing down statues, the whole Maoist cultural revolution we went through, destroying, burning buildings, burning businesses. Nothing.
They have the media, though. They have the media, so they can have the media twist it. Mm-hmm. And I have a few leftist friends that haven't unfriended me on Facebook that I've seen spout all of this stuff over these last many years, and they're still spouting it now, and somehow they still haven't unfriended me because I'm saying my own stuff.
I've lost several
mostly
friends.
Peaceful protests.
I've lost several friends over the last. I've lost several friends, and there are like two guys on my face. They're at least two people that I know on Facebook who, whenever I post something that I guess particularly perturbs them enough, they show right up on my page, and they try to, and they try to, I guess, bring me back, because the one thing that I'm dead serious, the one thing that makes pro-Democrat black people, Julie, the one thing that makes pro-Democrat blacks, I'm talking about the ones who have been voting Democrat their entire life, like not just being raised conservative and then rebelling for 15 years and then coming back. These are people who have always voted Dem. They know nothing else. If I say something particularly, I guess, offensive to them, it eats them up that there's a black person in their circle who does not think or act or believe as they do. And it's so much of that. And just out of curiosity, how do you deal with this? Because I know it takes different forms within different communities. I mean, with you being a white woman, like how does that what are you seeing in amongst your circles, and and how do you combat that?
In terms of speaking up online, I mean, I have to have a thick skin. I have a lot of people unfriended me over the past many years. I was a Trump supporter from the very first Republican primary for the 2016 election. I heard him say things that I knew he was not part of the establishment. But so I lost a lot of friends on Facebook in that way. But as far as how do I take, dealing with people that are very combative, it's like what I already mentioned. I've had personal experience with narcissistic abuse tactics, and I don't put up with those anymore, and I don't let them get to me. And then I don't know. I trained in a martial art for 4 years, and maybe that's given me some.
What have you been
doing? Before I had my son, I trained in a Indonesian martial art called Merpati.
What's it called?
Merpati Putih. It's
okay. I never heard of that one.
It's obscure. The only school for that martial art in the whole Western Hemisphere is in Ogden, Utah, and in northern Utah. So, but anyway, that's probably helped me some too. But it does. Some of these people are particularly nasty. As far as I mean, I don't know. I don't really go around thinking of how I'm a white woman. I'm just a human being.
No. What I mean is, there is. I don't mean to take it in the, like, I don't want to talk. I'm not talking about like in the typical leftist dimension, like ways they talk about it. I'm saying that
Right.
I, as a black man living in New York City, with my own, you know, with like within my own individual circles here in where I'm at, I deal with, you know, I have to deal with things in my own way, okay, in terms of who I'm dealing with. You being, you know, a couple thousand miles away in, you know, with your, I'm talking on an individual level, like for you, how are you lately? What do you come across in your own individual circles, and how do you deal with it? And but besides the martial art, and now I got to look up that martial art, by the way.
And Utah's still a red state, right, Julie? No. Wait, which way did Utah go this election? Did they go for Kamala?
No, but they moved to the left because the Utah Democrats, they told the Democrats to all register as Republican so they could vote in the primary in Utah.
Oh my God, I remember that. Yeah.
And they infiltrated our caucus system. Anyways, that's a whole other topic. So, I mean, there is a subset of leftist Mormons that, and I'm Facebook friends with some of them, and they're nice people. They have good hearts. Their empathy has been completely weaponized against them.
Yeah.
And nice people, good people, these ones that I'm friends with. Then you have a bunch of rhinos. Also, it's mostly good people that we're dealing with here that I'm Facebook friends with. Anyways, I'm not going to be Facebook friends with the jerks.
Yeah.
You have, well, what we have here in Utah, and I don't know if this is exactly what you were asking me, but I'll just share this really quick. We have a schism in the Republican Party. We have the MAGA Republicans and then we have the rhinos. And you have the rhinos saying those MAGA Republicans are extremists and they're destroying our party. And then you have the MAGA Republicans who are saying, no, the rhino Republicans are destroying our party.
Right.
And
like the rhinos are they're kind of more aligned with Democrats now, or at least recently, right? I mean, like it's like the Liz Cheney types, right? The people kind of came out for the Democrats, really promoted the Democrats, and it really went after Trump.
Let's just put it this way, and I wish I could have put this in my documentary, the clip of Governor Cox, Spencer Cox, the governor of Utah, when he was elected governor back in, what year was it? It was around 2020. He was on a podcast with middle school students, and he introduced himself as, "Hi, I'm Governor Cox, he, him. This is a Republican."
That's unusual. I don't know if I've ever heard a Republican. That is very
announcing himself with pronouns.
That's remarkable.
That's woke. That's woke right for you, right there.
Yeah, that's extraordinary. Jesus. That's woke left, actually.
That is woke left. Wow.
Yeah, but then
I don't think I've ever seen that.
Taking it back to the whole Christian nationalist woke right stuff, we do have to be careful because I am somewhat active in Utah politics. I am a delegate. I went to the county convention for Republicans this year. I'm going to be going to the state convention next month. At least I'm planning on it. There is a subset within the MAGA Republicans that maybe are espousing a little more extreme views.
Sure.
And so we just have to, and then they're being casting too much aspersion on some of the people who are maybe on the border between Rhino and MAGA that are trying to like understand what's going on, and it's making things worse. Call human nature is a difficult thing to deal with.
Well, that's a big issue. Jonathan Haidt talks about it. I don't know if you're familiar with his work, but he did a seminar like a year or two ago where he said basically what's going on is everybody's getting dumber, for one thing, partly because the moderates are sniped at from both sides, basically. So the extremes, and everybody's afraid of the extremes, so they kind of placate the extremes. So the moderate Republicans or moderate Democrats or just moderate centrists and independents or whatever, like if they're not saying the right things, then the far left is saying you're not really a Democrat, you're basically a MAGA, whatever. And then the same thing's happening on the right.
Yeah.
If anybody's a little moderate, then they don't want to hate the opposite side. They just want to figure it out. They just disagree with them, and they're like, "You guys are just, you're rhinos." Like they'll call everybody rhinos, even though some rhinos are rhinos. But either way, you're getting sniped at from the extremes of both sides, and everybody else, all the reasonable people are scared and quiet, basically. I mean, for the most part, I think we're three people who are exceptions to that. But yeah, anyways, it makes it so those people are always the loudest voices because nobody wants to speak up against them or look at their head chopped off.
Yeah, I think there is some of that, and I think we have to always go back to the boring Constitution, because we need to gather everyone who wants a constitutional republic, and maybe they have more socially moderate views or socially liberal views, but they like the constitutional republic. This is where this is what can alleviate all of the woke right stuff too. We need to gather in a big tent, and there's going to be gay people, there's going to be non-Christians, like there was like some of the Republicans up in arms over Harmeet Dillon, like praying at the, was it her that it was someone who was like a Sikh who prayed at the Republican National Convention, and they
I saw some of that.
Had a big problem with that. I'm like,
that's dumb.
On. Like we need to, like.
I mean, it's so stupid. It's like that there's people with different religions in this country. Like, don't you want them on your side politically?
Yeah, we need. The solution is big tent of all the people that want a free society with a constitutional republic that may not agree on every single particular. And what's going dangerous with the woke right is, on some extreme. And again, most of these people might be like bots and operatives, but I started getting attacked by people on the right on X that are probably bots for being a female who expresses an opinion. Many times, by the way, and I can tell, and it's the same feel as dealing with a woke left person. It's the same like hysterical, narcissistic, abusey type interaction. So either way, we need to push that. I like how James in my film said that the people seeking catharsis, that can be used against us. We have to be smart. We need to stick with the boring old Constitution, in my personal view. Bring any religion, any race, any creed, everything who wants that. And then anyone else who wants something outside, who wants to seek for power primarily, that's not what the Constitution's about. Let's talk about that. That's not really what we should want. Anyways, it's just a very simple solution, but
it's politics 101. I mean, like you just big tent and like, look, this is America. You have freedom of religion. I have issues with a lot of big issues with trans ideology, gender ideology, but I love conservative trans people, for example. You know what I mean? Like the detransitioners that come out and stuff. It's like, that's great. We need those people very much so. Absolutely. Or even ones that aren't detransitioners, they're just trans people, but they realize like this is going a little too far. We shouldn't target children. We shouldn't have women playing in men's sports, or men playing in males playing in women's sports. Things like that. Gay people as well, right?
Yes.
Those are very powerful allies because it also, they're just people that prove that you're not a white supremacist, bigot, Christian person or something that's just hateful and bigoted. Like there's legitimate gripes to be had from people of any identity.
Yeah, and then back to the Christian nationalist, what I also found is that because on my X profile, I say that I'm from Utah, I had some of these Christian nationalists come after me. Oh, you must be Mormon. You're a heretic and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, well.
That's so stupid.
You're welcome. First of all, I don't even know if there's like, my beliefs are like, what I believe? Good, because I'm not even sure what I believe right now.
Right. Neither do they, by the way.
I'm sifting through some stuff, but I do believe in God and Jesus, whatever. But these people coming after me for my beliefs, the Mormons are going to be on the chopping block for the Christian nationalists because they're not Christian enough. Like, I'm sorry, we can't be fracturing our movement like that. And
just a lack of self-awareness from religious people too. I hate when they're like that because it's like, nobody's sure about every single thing in their scripture. You don't know all the teachings. Some of the things are contradictory. It's how it is in every book, right? Nobody lives up to it perfectly. So shut up. Who the hell are you to judge anybody? It's like it's pretty explicit in the Bible that you don't judge other people. Let God judge people, basically. You know what I mean? Besides, like, under the law or whatever. Morally, it's like, let God judge people. You know, it's just so crazy that people would even, you know, would be picking at things like that, especially when there's such important things to be accomplishing in the country and creating a political coalition that you would just be like, no, they're Mormon. That's their, you know, they're not the same kind of Christian we are, so that can't work. It's like, what is wrong with you? What is wrong with you?
So we just have to guard again, and then the anti-Semitism, like, I can't even deal with.
Yes, that too.
Yeah, there's some of that in the comments, but go ahead. I'm listening. I'm sorry, Julie.
Or taking former Democrats, like our friend Evan, like, people still like will talk trash about, I don't trust her. It's like she's making good now, it seems like. So I mean, people could change their minds. It's like, it's just because they were formerly a Democrat. It's like, you know, people change their minds, they see the light, and then, you know, and then thank you for coming in and helping us out now, because this is important. It's more important than your particular likes and don't likes and suspicions. Like, there's some serious things going on in the world.
Yeah, one more thing about woke right I want to say really quick. That they're saying that, like, oh, the classically liberal society that we had, it didn't work because look how infiltrated we became. But the solution to not being we need to educate people on these infiltration tactics and how to recognize it.
We do.
The solution is not to go and become an extremist lobbying, you know, primarily for power. That's not the solution, anyways.
No, totally. I totally agree. The Constitution's great the way it is. Liberalism is great. You know, classical liberalism. It's brought us this far. It's gave us a good life, good standard of living, freedom. That's worth keeping. It's worth maintaining and not just thrown out the window because things are getting a little tricky with social media and you know, Marxist infiltration and woke right infiltration. It's like, no. We do not throw the baby out with the bathwater.
We most certainly do not. And to that point, Nos, someone who we're all familiar with, Razor Fist.
That's who I was trying to remember his name last time, Isaiah. Yeah, that's the guy.
Razor Fist. Shout to Razor Fist. That dude is the man. I've been trying to get he's a busy guy out there in Arizona, but I wanted to bring this up because I think it's so poignant. This is exactly where I'm at. Okay. I've learned a lot from Razor Fist, by the way. He's got very interesting views on Abraham Lincoln. This is something he wrote earlier today. He said, you can put the word national in front of it all you like, dress it up, spin it as crossing the Rubicon, divine right to rule, so long as you never read 1st and 2nd Kings, I suppose. I will never stand with a monarchist, socialist of any stripe. And that really has to be like the way we all stand. Like we do. This is the United States of America. If we wanted to elect monarchy, if we wanted to have kings, you know, you go see our cousins in the UK right now. Go over there to England or Ireland right now. Yeah, yes. Like
Dylan Mulvaney is apparently going to relocate to the UK.
We're gonna miss him. But yeah. No, to Isaiah's point, real quick, it's, you know, the moment.
Hold a second. If he leaves, I'm drinking Bud Light. Again, I will drink a Bud Light and sing nah, hey, goodbye.
I'll do it too. No, the moment we do that, though, like we seek a monarch, seek a ruler, something like that, an emperor. It's like we cease to be America. It's not. We're not America anymore. We're something else. Maybe we have the same name, but we're something else. So,
Julie, I want to thank you for joining us. You have been. It's been really eye-opening to speak with you this evening. I do have one last question, and it is my most, pardon the siren in the back.
I have another question too, Isaiah. So don't.
Oh, you do? Well, ask your question first.
Yeah. Go
Ask
ahead.
your
No.
question first.
I want to.
No. I'm serious.
Don't do the fair. Oh, you want me to do it first? Okay. I was gonna say
you
don't do
ask
the
your question
fair. Don't do the farewell without me asking my last question. It's a quick.
No. Go right ahead, brother.
So have you had a chance to sit down with like Jordan Peterson about this film on his podcast or Daily Wire? Have you reached out to him at all? Or
I'm just a regular person. I had no way to like it was an act of God that we got, I found someone who funded the film. I didn't have a huge reach. James Lindsay was doing some interviews to help promote the film early when the film came out in August of last year. No, I don't have. I would love to, get it out more. We're trying to get it on Amazon. We are going to be in the Anthem Film Festival coming up in June.
Oh, good.
And I hope we can get better distribution. But no, I mean, Glenn Beck gave us a shout out. Charlie Kirk gave us some shout out, a shout out. But no, I have not been able to get.
You should try to reach out to Jordan Peterson, and if you can't reach out to him or through the Daily Wire, maybe see if James knows him. So James could do it. I think unless you're not in good terms with him or something, but I'm sure he can just shoot. Yeah, he should shoot a message to him because he'd love this movie. He's I don't know if you know much about him, but he hates communism. He hates communism.
He's watched communism decimate Canada.
Yeah, he would love this movie. So I think he would love to talk to you about it too. So I think it's really worth reaching out to him. He'll probably have you on his podcast. He'll probably promote it quite a bit because it's really important. It's a really important film. It's really important that people know about it. It's really well done. And I'm going to be sharing it for a long time. I think the people I know.
Same. The cinematography is fantastic, and I'm serious. The graphic work,
storytelling,
the storytelling, like
pacing,
Julie,
everything.
you did one. You and the people with you did one hell of a job putting this thing together.
Thank you.
I also think Rogan would be interested in it as well, Joe Rogan. But Jordan Peterson, I think, would definitely be interested in this.
Yeah.
My last question for you, Julie, is this. Do you support a soccer team out there in Utah?
No.
Okay.
I don't care about sports at all.
I got you. Okay. I figured I'd ask. Because Real Salt Lake is pretty good.
Yeah.
And I love soccer. So that's just
okay.
Just me being silly, basically. But thank you for joining us, Julie Behling, everyone. Behling. Damn. Sorry.
Julie Behling. Yeah, I really encourage you, Julie, to reach out to more people and get that out because I think there's plenty more people who would love to talk to you about it. And I'm going to be doing that. And I'll probably tweet Jordan Peterson. He doesn't follow me, but I'll tweet him. My more serious question, what else are you working on at the moment that we should be aware of?
Yeah, I do have a project that's connected with Beneath Sheep's Clothing. It's called Unwokeify, and we haven't really started promoting it yet, but I have a demo video. It's going to be a series of 16 5-minute videos. The target audience is high school and college age kids to teach them about the different aspects of wokeism and Marxism. Using some of our reenactment footage from the film and using some other things. And it's designed to be used perhaps like in a club, perhaps a Turning Point USA club in a high school or college where it would come with discussion questions and an activity to unbrainwash our young people. And I haven't started fundraising for that. It's not even going to be that much because we're not going to do any additional filming for these. But that project is another one I'm working on.
There's those kind of groups to reach out to. I know New York City has a New York Young Republicans club organization. So like, I don't know if those are nationwide or not, but probably shooting them an email and sending it over. Like they might not. I never heard of this movie until like a week or two ago.
This is fantastic stuff, Julie. Julie, thank you so much for coming on to Apostate Radio this evening. Thank you for your time, and I echo Gnosis sentiment when I say I am going to be sharing this and tell like everybody. Beneath Sheep's Clothing.movie. Buy your copy, buy your DVD copy, stream it. It's available. please watch this documentary.
Watch it and share it. Have watch parties.
Watch, share, have what exactly? Watch parties.
Anonymously email it to your faculty, local faculty, and everybody.
If you have to put the audio on a portable speaker while you're having a cookout, do it. All right, do it. So, Julie, thank you so much.
Thank you, Julie,
for having us. Thanks for coming on.
If anything else to promote, we got to have you back on. We'll talk about it.
Thank you. Please. I appreciate it. It was great to meet with you guys.
You're more than welcome anytime. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Julie. Have a good night.
That was fantastic.
That's a great film, and I was very moved by it. More so than I expected, and I was just like, I know you, and you know me. I think I was pissed and scared watching it, honestly. But it was enjoyable still. It was very informative. So it wasn't like a movie where you watch it and you're like just dreading it and it's like gonna make you cry necessarily. But it's very informative and it's just like very eye-opening. And we knew, both of us know a lot of this stuff, and it's still very eye-opening. Some of the stuff we learned.
It was like, it's like I said at the outset. You think you know something. You think you know as much as you're gonna know about something until you don't. Yeah. And I think about and a lot of what Julie was talking about reminded me of this whole situation with Carmelo with a K, Anthony, where the divisions, it's as if these people know that the best, like all they know how to do is sow division and chaos amongst the people, so that while we're all butting heads like this, they can take power and keep consolidating power and keep drawing people to
power and property and wealth, just
power
vacuuming out of,
and it really hurts because this Carmelo with it, for those of you who don't know, and there shouldn't be too many of you who don't, Carmelo with a K, Anthony. I'm being very specific about this. Carmelo with a K, Anthony is the 17-year-old boy who took the life of a white teenager by the name of Austin Metcalf. I was looking for clips earlier to talk about this, and because the press conference where this guy Dominique Alexander, who I described on Friday night as being a human CVS receipt, what with his criminal record, if you know, you know. The fact that this guy was trying to blame everything on racism, essentially trying to make Carmelo with a K, Anthony, the real victim. Like, I had to kill him because he wouldn't be because he made me get up out my seat. And if he didn't do that, if he wasn't white and tried to make me get out my seat, I wouldn't have had to kill him. That's basically
why would you have to kill somebody over that?
Because do you want me to be honest with you? Because that's how fools in the hood deal with it.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, I'm gonna just say this.
I mean, maybe if you gotta snuff him, maybe push him, whatever, but like, you gotta kill him or something like that.
Listen. We talking about a culture that celebrates jumping dudes in the sneaker store. Okay, like we're talking about an utterly degenerate culture, and a culture that really has been infiltrated by communists and don't even realize it.
Yeah,
don't even realize it. Like, people, like, it enrages me what's happened, and thankfully, the division hasn't really taken. It's been like a lot of the more vehement division that's been spread has mainly stayed online. Like there was supposed to be this like white lives matter type of rally that was supposed to take place yesterday, and like only 25 people showed up. Oh, it was beautiful. It was an empty parking lot, and it was great. I enjoyed it. Like I'm glad like just to look at the pictures and everything. So it's like the division is more online than anything else.
Yeah. Thankfully.
But I don't know, man. I think, like I said, communism is a pestilence that must be purged from the earth. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care how anybody might feel. I don't regret voting for Donald Trump, because I consider my vote to have been a vote for a third way instead of that left-right dichotomy that's been placed in front of us by Marxists on both sides.
Yep, uniparty globalist options, basically, seems like.
And I don't regret it. I don't regret it. I don't regret I don't regret that we have voting for a president who wants to put our needs first, that is regular Americans, instead of the same moneyed interests that have constantly had our politics in a chokehold, while only paying us lip service. I do believe my vote for Trump. I do not regret. If anything, I regret not voting for Trump in 2020. But I see things, the way that things unfolded, they unfolded for a reason.
Yeah.
They unfolded for a reason. And I don't know about you, but I just really have to chalk everything that's going on right now. This tells me that, like I said on Friday night, this is a phrase that my parents use. My parents taught us: God is sovereign.
Oh, that's for sure.
God is sovereign, and he's on, and everything that is happening. I'm channeling my father here. Shout to Kevin Carter, one of literally, Pop, I love you. You are one of the greatest men in my life. Okay, and I mean that, Pop. Like everything that you and Mommy taught us, and teach us still. I don't want to talk about them like they're gone. They're still here by the grace of God.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, my dad will be turning 67 on May 11th, and
I think your parents are. That's funny. Your parents are like almost the same age, if not the same age as mine, and they had. I think they had us probably around the same time, maybe like a year apart or something.
Yeah, a year apart. Yeah,
I think it was. I think when because there's that's the reason why I know that, because you said the other day that they had a 42-year anniversary. Was that right?
It'll be 45.
45.
Years.
Okay, so I think my dad and mom was 42. So yeah, it was around the same time. We're almost on the same timeline there.
Yeah, July 12th, 1980 is when they got married.
Yeah.
And
my parents just celebrated their 42nd.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Like the reason why I bring them up is because they're the ones who gave us that phrase, God is sovereign. They say it even to this day.
It's wise. And
it is wise. It's very wise. And it's one of those things that just gives you a lot of peace, man. You know what I mean? Like, because let's just be clear. We got folk out here literally talking about they want to kill, they want to unalive the president of the United States.
Yeah.
And they feel completely and totally justified in saying it and stating it as loudly as they are.
Yeah,
I have never in my life have I seen such an open worship of death and destruction and the tearing down of everything because they hurt your feelings, because you're scared. It's this open embrace of death. It drives me insane.
No, it's like a death cult, man, in so many ways. I mean, with the I mean, we already know what the communists did, all the millions and millions of people they killed, but also like, the fact that they're like pushing for and it's legal, is like, euthanasia and in like, Canada, and I think in Europe and certain places where people are just getting, like, young people are having assisted suicide for stuff that could probably be cured, things that they could probably get over, like different mental ailments. There's different things you could do. Abortion.
Hey, are you poor? Kill yourself.
Yeah, I'm depressed. I mean, no, depression is terrible, but people do get out of it. Like Greg Lukianoff, like I said the other day with Slocum, Josh Slocum, is like, he was this close to killing himself, and then he went to, there's a Carter's. Look at that.
That was
last summer. I see the resemblance, brother. Shout out to the Carters, man, raising a great kid, great family, man.
But go ahead, dude.
Yeah, but like, the assisted suicide, the celebration of abortion. Like, I understand why some people might want to get an abortion, and there's a couple of reasons why that's like, yeah, I get it, like being raped or whatever. But it's like the celebration of it, having the abortion cart outside the DNC. The anti-human streak of environmentalists saying, there's too many people. We need to have less people. It's like, what does that mean? Who gets to go? Who has to go then? What does that mean? That means some people got to get killed. What does that mean? They
never answer.
There's a number of things like that where it's like being anti-children, anti-family, anti-marriage. Like, those are the institutions. Marriage is an institution where you raise children together. That's the best way to do it. Right. And they're like against marriage. I think I shared something the other day about like some feminists wrote, like, the only way for feminism to move forward or something is to abolish the family. Yeah. And it's like, what kind of shit is that? What kind of comment is that?
Mm-hmm.
But so that just goes along what you're saying with all those aspects of, like, being pro-war now.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, yeah, like, listen, they can try to abolish the family, but I ain't abolishing my mom.
No, of course not. And they're
that
you look just like her. That's funny.
Yeah, that's funny, my twin.
That's your twin.
That's my twin, man. Yeah. Well, no, I'm her firstborn. Like, it's
yeah.
I am not. Listen, if there's one thing, and see, I'm gonna just tell this quick story because I want to. It reminded me of this, right? Right after Trump won the election in 2017, I was kind of, I shouldn't say kind of, but this was when I was in my woke era, if you want to call it. I was never woke. Let me just back that up. When I was a Democrat, I was never woke.
Me neither.
I was a moderate. Never. I was a moderate that did not like Republicans, but who knew that the left was always there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll never forget when Trump won the election and everybody's bugging out and everybody's just going nuts. This guy I don't know if he's still on Twitter, but he goes by the name of Chauncey. Well, he goes by the name of Chauncey DeVega. Okay. And I remember when I was telling people how I was the only member of my family who had not voted for Trump, who did not vote for Trump. And I was using that as kind of, political capital at the time, like social capital. Like, I'm the only member. Like, I'm so ashamed of my family. I'm the only one who didn't vote for Donald Trump. That was evil and sadistic on my part to do that, and I'm admitting that publicly. But Chauncey DeVega asked me point blank a question that no one had ever asked up to that point. He asked me, he goes, are you going to disown your family for voting for Donald Trump? He asked me this. He asked me this online, and I told him no, flat out. I'm not going to do that.
Of course not.
Why would I disassociate myself from the parents who bore me? Why would I disassociate myself from the brothers whose diapers I changed when we were growing up. I got 4 brothers, and I got and now I have 5 nephews between the ages of 15 and 4, and I have 2 nieces, the apples of my eye, who one is 10 and the other is 5. Why in God's name would I abandon my family? And we all have a very strong resemblance to each other. Why would I ever abandon my family?
Yeah.
That is the most sadistic thing I think about this whole woke garbage. Is this war on family?
That's a big one. Yeah.
In the Black community,
splitting kids from their parents too in the classroom.
You take or
from the state as well. The state enforcing,
state-sponsored trafficking of children, state-sponsored kidnappings.
Yes. Saying it's child abuse if you don't do gender affirming care or don't use their pronouns or whatever the hell the laws are in certain places. It's like, it
is the most despicable thing I have ever seen in my life. But again, it's all it's all part of that positive transcendence of private property. They call everything private property. They call having a family private property. They call having, material things like cars and houses and all that. No. It goes beyond that. That if you have a 2-parent household, and let me tell you, in the Black community, they've managed to get rid of the nuclear family.
Yep.
In like
70
some percent. It's like 76 to 77%.
Is it really that high?
Oh God, yes, and it might even be higher.
That explains a lot, man.
70-some% of families in the Black community are single parent, and most of the kids stay with their mothers.
Dude, taking care of kids is hard enough with both parents in the house.
Yeah, but
that's enough of a challenge then.
Right. But think about it. But then you've got these people, then you've got these assholes screaming about further abolishing the family. For what?
Oh yeah.
So we can be even further devoted to the state? Like how much devotion to the state do you really want?
Yeah, it's also part of it's a power play from the state too, because the foundation of a society is the nuclear family, right? Those are the bricks of a society that makes the fortress of a society. And if you break those apart, you can really manipulate people. If they don't have love in their life, they don't have the social embeddedness, that's a Marxist strategy, and probably a strategy for any totalitarian government to we could really manipulate people if they don't even have their own family to back them up. If they don't even have a family, they don't even know where they are. They're adrift. If you don't have a family, you better have something else like it. You better have like a close social group of friends, a job with people you care about, some kind of some clubs, sports, whatever you're playing. But you better have some kind of social embeddedness, because otherwise you will feel adrift. You'll feel depressed. You'll feel lost. You'll feel like there'll be a meaningless in your life. You better be like have some kind of church, something, because family is so fundamental, especially when bad things happen in your life. Who are you going to go to? What are you going to do? Who's going to care about you?
I would have, yeah, and I would even argue that getting rid of the family. I mean, Gramsci was cooking. I'll say this: he was cooking when he said that the nuclear family. When he said that socialism was the religion that must overwhelm the family and all the rest, right?
Very
I would argue it was very, very. It's an evil man. But
kill that piece of shit. Manolo, kill that piece of shit, man.
But I would argue that getting rid of the family is probably worse than them taking the guns.
Yeah. I
You
mean,
want to? If you want to know why I say
I'd
that?
rather give up my gun than my family. Let's put it that way.
True, but if you had to, but if you had to choose, I would say that, because here's the thing: you take a man's family, from him. You take him, that you're taking his, in many ways, you're taking his purpose
Yes.
away from him.
Yes.
Right? You're taking his purpose.
Yep.
A man has men. That's one of the biggest things about the biggest problems in our society right now is that men have no purpose.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Men are perishing in this country for lack of purpose,
And women too. If they're
women
single,
too.
if they're
Women
single,
too.
because they're looking for a man too, usually. And yeah, they also, like, their purpose is going to work. I mean, that's a means to an end, honestly. Like, it's usually work isn't for most people. I think it's not like, oh my God, I get up every morning because I live to work. Most people don't live to work, right? But you do live to spend time with your family. You live to spend time with your best friends. You live to take care of your children. So you're absolutely right. It leads to if you don't have that, and the social embeddedness I was talking about. The sociologist Emil Durkheim used to called it the society will have an anomy. People have
Enemy. Yeah.
Anomy, meaning like a normlessness and a meaninglessness in your life, and you're kind of lost in a drift, and you're easy to manipulate. You're easy to get pulled into a cult, easy to get pulled into an ideological cult like communism, Marxism.
You know what's funny? The first and only person that I've heard use that term up until you was Christopher Hedges. There's a video out where he actually talks about, where he goes into Emil Durkheim in at length, and I find it so hilarious that he got into he got into Durkheim and trying to express, and talk about enemy, but then say, oh, well, we need to vote for Bernie Sanders. So you fucking really?
I'm not sure if that's a conclusion to draw from that. But I learned about it from the Jonathan Haidt again, from The Righteous Mind, and I think in other books he's mentioned it. Emil Durkheim is very influential to him. It's kind of what turned him into a moderate, because before when he wrote that book, started writing a book, he was a partisan Democrat. He wanted to write a book to help the Democrats win. He was he went to Yale. He was he was just he didn't like the neocons. He didn't like Bush and all that. And he started reading Thomas Sowell. He started to what's the word? Research for his book, and read Emil Durkheim and different anthropologists and things he learned from social psychology. And he learned that, a lot of conservative values and the things that conservatives fight for and consider really, really important actually are really important. And he couldn't even being a Democrat and being sympathetic to kind of maybe like early DEI type stuff, though I don't think he was really ever woke. He realized, oh no, they're wrong about that. The conservatives are right about this. You need to have families. Religion is good. You need to have tight groups of people, communities together, things that people do together, playing sports together, doing clubs, different things like that. All that stuff makes for a great nation, a strong nation. It's hard to break apart, because even if we lost, had some kind of disaster, or somebody conquered a state or something like that, we'd still be. It's hard to break down people who are so tightly knit. It's really hard to break those people down. People have families. Exactly. People have something to fight for. People have some people to rely on. But anyways, there's a whole thing he talks about in that. But yeah, that's interesting. I don't know who's Christopher Hedges.
Chris Hedges is a guy. He's a journalist, essayist, journalist, essayist. I mean, he's been thrown out of a lot of. I think he wrote for the New York Times at one point. But he's got a. But yeah, if you type in Christopher
Times,
Hedges,
NPR, Christian Science Monitor.
Yeah, like he's
he's a lefty guy. It looks like, no,
he is. Oh God, yes. I mean, he's absolutely a lefty,
but he's also a clergyman, Presbyterian. Yeah. I don't know. Is that one of those lefty churches? I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with all the different Christian sects. I grew up a Catholic, so I don't know what the Presbyterians are up to or the Baptists are up to as much.
Yeah, there's a lot of there's like one of these
Universalists.
days,
I know those Universalists are more lefty, I think, right? They're
the Unitarian Universalists are like those guys creep me the fuck out. I can't stand them. I cannot stand those because honestly, like those are the ones who have like completely and fully embraced just fully embraced wokeness. Like that cosplayer, that civil rights cosplayer down in Tennessee. I can't remember the one with the
was it Pearson? We were talking about him the other day.
Timu
Malcolm X.
Timu Malcolm X. Yeah, that dude went to. He had one of his.
Those people are Justin Pearson. Those people make me laugh, man. When people are like it's just like a Timo Obama, what's his face, Booker. Like they're just so fake. They're just so like they're so inauthentic. They're just like they're acting. They're doing a performance. They're clearly doing a performance. Like, this is gonna get me. People paying attention to me and thinking I'm some kind of revolutionary. No, you're not, man. You are a fucking counterfeit. Shut up.
Well, I think that
nobody's buying it.
And with that, folks, I think we can call it a night. What do you say?
Yeah, let's call it a night.
Yeah, because I've got this has been a heavy.
Yeah, this is a serious episode. Like we didn't have too many, but it's a serious topic. I think both of us watched it, and we're just like, I was like, oh man, this is something I gotta share this with people. I gotta try to share it with my family and people who don't know what's going on. Most people have no idea this is going on.
Yeah. So. And again, folks, once again, go to beneathsheepsclothing.movie to buy your copies, to send as many copies to friends and family. Makes a great stocking stuffer for the holidays.
Indeed.
All that stuff. Make sure you're following Julie Behling at Julie A. Behling. Again, we want to thank her.
Yeah, great work,
for stopping by, and we will continue to support Julie in all her endeavors. And we would love to have, and I'm saying this right now, we would love to have you back when you release those videos or whenever.
Yeah,
listen,
something new to promote.
If you want to just come and talk to us about whatever, we're here. Like that's where this is the one thing that I will say that I'm very thankful to do this, because we're providing a home for people who were pushed away from the cult.
Yes, that's true.
That's something that we don't talk about enough. It's like there are so many people out here who are politically homeless.
Yes.
Who are rendered politically homeless by the Democrat Party on the left and even by Republicans.
And there are people who often did the right thing. They followed their heart. They knew it was unpopular. They knew they're going to lose friends. They knew they're going to be ostracized, but they did it anyways. And that's one of the most brave things you could do. Like, it's scary to be out there on your own, to lose your best friend, like Evan has gone through, like, not kids having issues at school now. Like, they got invited to parties. It's like, that's terrible. It's like, leave the kids out of it, man. Like, let people have different freaking points of view and different political points of view. I mean, more than half the country voted for Trump. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, what kind of people are you?
I'm ready to look. I will fight. I'm gonna say this right now. I will fight a motherfucker over Evan Barker. Okay, I will fight a motherfucker. I'm dead ass.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Me and you'll be like, double dragon, bro, back to back.
Exactly.
Back, like Power Rangers.
No, I will listen. I will
see the immortal Iron Fist.
I will fly my fat ass out there to wherever she is in California, and I will go after whoever. Because I'm dead serious, man. Like, Evan Barker is someone. She is. We call her the Queen Apostate for a reason. That woman followed her heart. She followed her morals.
Yeah.
Okay. She knew that the Democratic Party were evil and wrong and just absolute and not doing what they said they were going to do, what they love to talk about and present themselves as, and they weren't doing it. And Evan caught wind of it, and she's like, I can't do this, and walked away from that party.
Yeah, and I totally understand why she did that, and she's made it clear, and she's right. That's a leader. That's a leadership quality. That's a lioness, like Theo Jordan.
Exactly.
When I was talking to him on his podcast as well, like, this is the difference between lions and lamb, man, lions and sheep. Some people are gonna be like, you know what? I don't need to be part of this flock anymore. I don't need to be part of this. This is not aligned with my values.
Exactly.
This is not. I don't like what I'm seeing here. I like what I'm seeing on the other side right now, because what you guys are doing is just you're not for the middle class. You're elitist. You're totally inauthentic. You deny reality. You're preying on children. You have open borders. I mean, the list goes on. It's like even Trump, when he speaks recklessly, is better than that. Even then, it's like I'll take my chances with him.
Yeah.
I mean, the opposite. We already know what the opposite is. We already know what it's like with the Democrats. I mean, like, they got to clean up their act, man, and they got to cut they got to delouse the Democrat Party and reform into something else if they ever want my vote again. That's for sure.
That's for damn sure. Me too. And the Maoism garbage has to go.
Oh yeah,
the Maoism garbage has to go. Like I said,
I'll never be back with them as long as that's still around. Ever.
Same.
Can't do it.
Thank y'all once again for joining us. This has been Apostate Radio, the episode 11. Thank you once again to Julie Behling. Shout out to Evan Barker, who is the Queen Apostate. We love you.
Shout out to Evan.
And also, I want to send. Matter of fact, hold on. I'm not going to end the show just yet.
Uh-oh.
Not going to end the show just yet. I got something I need to get off my chest.
Oh boy.
And I'm pretty sure that I'm going to lose some friends. I'm gonna lose some followers behind this, but I don't care. I don't care. Y'all gonna leave Sam Antar alone. Y'all gonna leave Crazy Eddie alone. Okay? And this message goes out to Laura Loomer and all these other people who have been coming for Sam Antar for breaking the story about New York State's Attorney General Letitia James. Laura Loomer thought she had a scoop and basically came for Sam Antar. Sam Antar, for those of you who don't know, was Crazy Eddie. He was the one who cooked the books for Crazy Eddie back before I was even born. Okay. I know this man. Okay. I've had the chance to talk to him, spend a little time with him. He's a good man. He's a very good man. And Laura Loomer tried to steal his story that he'd been working on for months, that he'd held on to for about a year. And I'm going to say this right now. The fact that Laura Loomer not only went after Sam Antar, but then went after, he's got 2 children who passed away. And you decided to go after him. For what? You decided to go after him for what? Oh, I know, because you decided that you didn't like getting called out for trying to steal that man's scoop. What was done to him is absolutely ridiculous. It was one of the most heinous things I've ever seen. And the only reason why you went after him, Loomer, is because you got caught. You got caught. I have unfollowed you. And what's messed up is that you actually are a very, very you're actually a pretty good journalist when you're not stealing other people's shit. You're actually pretty good. But a lot of people got to see exactly what type of person you are. They got to see exactly what kind of person you are, and now they know to stay the fuck away from you. They know that you're a thief. You steal people's stories. Your own producer, in the images that I presented, your own producer said that this was his story. So you went after him. So you went after him without like knowing you had no backup. You're a terrible human being. Uh-oh. You're a terrible human being, Laura Loomer. And I don't know what's worse. The fact that so many people are caping for you, because I know you have your own, you know, you're basically the skinnier version of Karlin Borisenko. Okay. You got your flying monkeys out there, you know, who will mess with people for coming at, for going after you for what you did. Here's the thing. I'm not afraid of you. And I ain't afraid of your flying monkeys either. You're going to leave Sam Antar alone. You're going to leave my friend alone. That's a good man, and he didn't deserve for you to come after him about his deceased children.
Jeez. I totally missed this. That's classless.
Totally classless. But that's all right, because like I said before, God is sovereign. But now that I've gotten that off my chest, we can go. We can get out of here. Next week, episode 12. Unless we have another Thursday or Friday midday like morning.
Never know.
We never know.
You never know.
But next Sunday at 8 p.m. we're gonna have Mr. Tremel Thompson, who is the vice president of Transportation Workers Union Local 100. He is my friend, and he will be speaking to us about what actually goes on in New York City Transit from the workers' perspective. Yes, I can't wait to have him. I can't wait to have him on. Been looking forward to it for quite some time. And he goes by at Progressive Action on all of the socials. Good dude. Can't wait to talk to him.
Is he progressive?
He might have been at one point, but the way that but of late, no.
Okay.
No. He done with that.
Okay.
He done with that. Anyways, that's our show. Thank you so much for coming on tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We thank you once again. If you want to support us, if you feel so inclined, buymeacoffee.com/apostate radio.
Yeah, buymesomedrawers.com.
Yes, buy you some drawers.com. Leave it
buy
to
me a coffee.
Buy me a coffee. Yeah, you buy me the coffee, you buy him some drawers. Anyways.
.com/apostate radio, guys. You can follow me at Nostra Chavez.
Absolutely.
This man, the great Isaiah L. Carter at Isaiah L. Carter.
Thank you. Thank y'all. And thank you for joining us. And we will talk to you next week.
Till next time, everybody.